Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Chatham Select Board meeting of August 25th, 2026. Let the record show the meeting started promptly at 5:30 p.m. I will read what I need to read. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can access the proceedings as provided for in that order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, which is Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as is possible. First order of business is to establish a quorum of the Select Board. I'll do that via a roll call. Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Nicastro.
Present.
Ms. Potash.
Present.
Mr. Metters.
Present.
And Chair Dykens is present as well. I would ask folks to please silence their cell phones. If you are taping the meeting and or using an AI aid to record the meeting, to kind of let us know. I see Mr. Buckley's hand is up, so I assume, Stephen, that you are using AI this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll be making an unofficial transcript. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buckley. Thanks for letting us know. So, silent cell phones. We have a quorum. First item of business this evening is to adopt the minutes, to approve the minutes of August 11th, 2026. I'll accept
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of August 11th, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Metters.
Second.
Okay, any edit suggestions? Okay, Mr. Nicastro.
Mr. Chair, I have three corrections. First is on page 5. Up at the top, there is a sentence, Mr. Smith recused himself.
Yes.
There's something left off at the end. The time should be inserted. On page 6, in the second to last paragraph, which begins director fairly stated, in the second line, near the beginning, after the word bylaw, I'd like to insert on water conservation enforcement. Bylaw on water conservation enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And then on page 13, again, second to last paragraph, in the fourth line, the very first word discussion, I'd like to strike that and substitute the word presentation. So they would have 15 minutes for presentation, 45 for questions. That's it.
Okay. Any other comments, edit suggestions on the minutes of August 11th? Okay, we'll run the roll. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Nicastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. The next item on our agenda are public announcements and or business item requests, agenda item requests, I should say. Are there any public announcements by anybody that's sitting here this evening in the public? I don't see any. Are there any other? I'm going to go to the board as well. Thank you. Mr. Nicastro.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I have an agenda item request that the board consider placing on the warrant for the next town meeting, whether it's an annual meeting or special town meeting, a home rule petition to the Massachusetts legislature to, 1, expand the jurisdiction of the Taxation Aid Committee to include all need-based applicants, regardless of disability or elderly status, and 2, to authorize the town to fund the Taxation Aid Fund by appropriation of municipal monies and other available funds. I have communicated with the chair of that committee, and she is supportive of this request.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Nicastro.
I would second that, and I'd like to join in that.
Okay, yep, so noted. Anything else from the board this evening? Agenda item requests and or announcements. Mr. Smith.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. I just wanted to remind again that I had requested, I think another member had too, a pre-budget review briefing before I didn't see that in the future, but maybe I didn't see it. Also, I think it would be helpful, given the costs being incurred, that we, the select board, receive an update from the town manager on the COA building construction project. And although we do fund the school budget, it's under the Monomoy School District's jurisdiction, but I think it would be helpful for the public through this board to get a project update on that as well. So those are two items that I'd like.
Yeah, we can work with the district to get an update from
Great.
on the middle school project. Any other items from the board? Any public announcements from folks here? Greg, you have an announcement?
Hi all, Greg Berman, your Director of Natural Resources. I just wanted to share some good news. During a one-week span in August, we had 3 grants, state and federal, awarded to the town, one of which was an increase in the Seaport Economic Council grant for the 90 Bridge project in the amount of $475,933. We had an NRCS award of $3 million for the Frost Fish Creek Salt Marsh Restoration Project, and an Eco One Stop award of $933,780 for the Jackknife Beach Living Shoreline and Restoration Project. So that's a total of over $4.4 million in a week. Not too bad for the town. And that's it.
You know, Greg, that's really good news. 3 million? 3 million? No, 3 million for one grant in particular.
Yes.
475, 3, and 933.
Yes,
Excellent, great work.
that'll probably be in the manager's report too.
Yeah, one would think. Okay, great work, thank you very much. Mr. Buckley, you have your hand raised. I believe you're online?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have an agenda item request. And it may be discussed or handled under an agenda item later tonight, this evening, having to do with annual committee review process. So I understand, but I wanted to at least get on the record by asking for this particular issue, and then if it's covered later on, then fine, or at a later date, then I'll understand that. But I wanted to get it on the record at least, and that is has to do with the process for the 40B housing projects that we have going on in town under the Zoning Board of Appeals. I was wondering if there's something about the way that the Zoning Board of Appeals how they handle that process, because I was somewhat dismayed to learn that the Zoning Board of Appeals was able to convince the developer to take out a community room that had been planned by the developer at no extra charge, so that residents could hold birthday parties or Christmas parties or with, because it has a kitchen or would have had a kitchen, and just provide the social hub that any neighborhood would be proud to have. And so I was just dismayed. And it may be that everything went just the way it was supposed to, but I think it still needs some review. And that would just be an example that I think would, like I said, in reviewing committee room, the process later on. But I just need to understand how it was that it would look as a plus to take out a community room, especially considering the February snowstorm, which would have been a perfect example of people being able to meet there and stay warm and cook food while their apartments were to be, without power. So thank you. That's what I would like to request.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'm not sure we're going to get quite to that. I want me to talk about ZBA, but it was so noted for the minutes, and I thank you very much for your comments. We have an extremely heavy agenda this evening, just as a comment from the chair. We have 3 public hearings, actually 4 public hearings this evening. We have one for N-Star Electric for the placement of a pole. We have one a Shellfish Rules and Regulation hearing being bumped up to us from the Shellfish Advisory Committee. We have a change in manager at our Chatham Bars Inn, and we have the consideration of placement of no parking signs on Bell Road, Bay Lane, I should say, and Bell Road and Shore Road. We also have a long consent agenda. I believe there's going to be one item that's going to be considered. We're going to pull out that item from our consent agenda. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items in our business agenda, and some of which are long awaiting. One is a report on the Finance Committee on the residential tax exemption, a report out from their working group. We have folks here that are interested in the change in the beacon at our Chatham Lighthouse. We have folks looking to, or either we have a recommendation from staff to prohibit large events on North Beach and North Beach Island. We have a review of a proposed community survey. We have our annual committee review process, which Mr. Buckley just referred to, and then we have a review of the town manager's monthly report. There will be obviously public comment at all our public hearings, those 4 public hearings that I just described, and also during a business agenda. I would ask that folks limit their comments during our business agenda to 3 minutes. We will allow Mr. Daniel to exceed that 3-minute cap, I should say, when he does his presentation from the report out from the Finance Committee on the working group, okay? So anyway, and others, the folks that are presenting on the beacon, I discussed with you guys, 10 minutes is a great time, okay, to shoot for, okay. Anyway, any further items from the public? We'll go right to our public hearings. I would ask our clerk, Potash, to please read the first public hearing from NSTAR Electric.
The Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing at 5:30 PM on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, in the large meeting room of the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, Mass., and remotely via Microsoft Teams platform to consider the petition of NSTAR Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy, to install one new FO pole 7/14 of the capital letter A with anchor and guy on Crow's Pond Road, plus or minus 110 degrees north of existing pole 7/14, and to install 40 degrees plus or minus 2 -4, looks like maybe that's inches, yes, conduit at 190 Crow's Pond Road. The public is welcome to attend the meeting in person or participate via a link in the posted agenda.
Thank you, Clerk Potash. I know we have Marissa Jackson of Eversource online for her participation or input this evening. Welcome, Marissa. What are we doing on Crow's Pond Road, Marissa?
Thank you very much. So as previously stated, Marissa from Eversource, and what we're proposing is the install of one fully owned Eversource pole, as well as approximately 40 feet of 2 4-inch conduit. The purpose of this construction is to provide new underground service to 2 lots for a residential development. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address.
Any questions for Marissa this evening for the public hearing from the board?
I have a motion.
Any questions from the public on the request by Eversource to install a pole on Crow's Pond Road? Any questions from abutters? Okay, hearing and seeing none, either here or online, we'll turn it back to the board. A motion, please.
Yeah, so I move to permit NSTAR to install a new pole as announced. The only caution is to be aware of the water line and hydrant close to the proposed pole location. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank
And
you.
the conduit. Hole in the conduit would be,
Pole in the conduit.
right, Marissa?
I'm sorry?
It's the pole and the conduit as well. That should be
That
in the
is
motion.
correct.
Yeah, so we were advised that a water line and hydrant is adjacent to that pole location, so that's why I added the caveat.
That's absolutely correct. I did hear from the Department of Public Works. They advised me, to move forward with caution, and I advised that we are required to pull a dig safe prior to any digging in the roadway.
As you well should. Okay, good. So we have a motion. I believe we have a second by Mr. Smith. We'll run the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Castro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Thank you very much, Marissa. Thank you. I will
Thank
prevail
you very
upon-
much.
Yes, thank you, Marissa. I'll prevail upon the clerk to read the next public hearing.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board, acting under the authority granted to them by the acceptance of Article 16 of the annual town meeting held February 17th, 1942, and the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 598, Section 52 and 54 of the Acts of 1941, Chapter 130, Section 52, and Sections 201 of the Town of Chatham's Shellfish Rules and Regulations, will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, at 5:30 PM in the large meeting room at the Town Office, Annex 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, remotely and via Microsoft Teams platform, at the request of Eric Gong, to appeal the denial of a commercial shellfish license. The public is welcome to attend the meeting in person or participate via the link in the meeting's posted agenda.
Thank you, Clerk Potash. This is a request to have us review the request that was denied for a commercial shellfish license, and I will recognize our shellfish constable,
Mr. Chair?
Renee Gagne.
Should we not hear first from the appellant?
We could. I thought that we would hear from Renee first and then Renee Pelham.
All right.
Well, ultimately, and good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening,
Chair,
Renee.
and to the Select Board. Ultimately, it's Mr. Gong who requested this public hearing to appeal the denial of the shellfish, commercial shellfish permit. So it's his opportunity to appeal to you because you are also listed in reviewing shellfish commercial applications. But I'm here for any questions that you
Okay.
might have.
All right, thank you, Renee. Mr. Gong, I see you're online. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Please, why don't you give us some background on your appeal and what you're looking for?
Well, I'm looking for an appeal because I've been living in Chatham for over a year already, and I figured that why can't I get a shellfish permit? You know, I pay my taxes there. It's considered my major domicile, I guess. And my car's registered there. What was mentioned on the rebuttal to my request was that I listed my Mini Cooper there, and yet I registered also. I put down the Audi. The Audi's a new one, with the old plate, and that had to be changed because that was what the salesperson told me to do, the easiest way to do it, you know. So, but the cars were registered there. Excise tax been paid there, even though the address is sent to Newton. It doesn't mean that, it's because the mailbox is down on the 300 feet from my house with security, with no security cameras. I'm kind of reluctant to, mail it to the mailbox on the street. Okay. What else? And from the letter, it stated that after the fact that I had entered my name as on the census, and I think that's there's too much weight on the fact that I finally registered on the census. In my view, anyways. I don't lease there, so I can't provide a lease. Voter registration certificate. That was more or less recently done because that's part of, I guess, proof. Okay, so it's not because I'm not sure if that's a requirement. Okay, but based on the climate we have, I choose not to vote when I don't want to either. So after changing my license to Chatham, it also requests that should because the questionnaire comes up is that should I change your voter registration or something like that, and I checked out yes. Okay, so the clear indication to me is that they're denying me because I don't have the necessary proof that I have been living there for at least 1 year.
Okay.
Okay.
So
And
if I might, we need to just hear very clearly what the criteria for obtaining a commercial shellfish license is in the town of Chatham from our constable, Gagne, and then we need to match up those criteria with what evidence of such we have in your case for your appeal. So I'm going to turf it off to Renee Gagne, and we're going to ask her what the criteria are to secure a commercial shellfish license in the town of Chatham? Renee?
So we have a one-year durational requirement to prove that you're a domiciled resident. That means you must live here for one whole year and in order to qualify for a commercial permit. Now, we have listed in our regulations certain criteria that we use to satisfy that durational requirement. They have to have a date on them. We're only going to know if somebody's here for 1 year if we find any piece of evidence that has a year on it. So we had the registration that, again, was, the address was a Newton address. The license, driver's license was a Newton address. He was not on our town census or on our voter ranks. And so those are the criteria we used, and he didn't meet any of the initial criteria that we have, and so therefore we had, I sent him the denial letter. I just want to emphasize that this durational requirement that we have is really to protect our resources and to protect our commercial shellfishermen that live here. I mean, it's been, this is stood up in court as far as having that durational element, but ultimately, we do need to have proof, and it's the onus of the applicant to have those documentations that we can actually go back and find that date that we can, where the clock starts to tick. And I felt that he didn't meet any of those requirements.
Okay, thank you, Renee. Questions from the board members to either Renee or Mr. Gong? I clearly see, well, the registration that we have in front of us is Dudley Road, Newton, Mass. As is the driver's license, Dudley Road, Newton, Mass. And those are clearly two criteria that we have to certify that, in fact, you're domiciled here and have done so for a year.
Okay.
So I just, hang on, please, 1 second, Mr. Gahn. Any other questions from the board? Ms. Potash, then Mr. Nacastro,
I think
please.
Mr. Nacastro was
Mr. Nacastro, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Gong, in your application, you referred to a Mini Cooper of 2017 showing as being on Crosswind Farm Road. Do you still own this Mini Cooper? Is that no longer your?
Yes, I do.
Where is that
Yes, I
garage?
do.
Where is that garage?
It's in Chatham.
It's in Chatham. So what's
Been there for-
what's the deal with the Audi? Do you not own the Audi? The
I
Audi?
do own the Audi also, okay? What happened was that when I bought it back in November or something like that, from what the salesperson told us, is that the easiest way to do is just transfer my old plates, okay, over to the Audi, okay? And that's what I did. And so it happens that at that time, the Audi was under, because the Audi is new, okay? It was registered in Newton because that's what the plates were, okay? So I'm transferring plate from an old car plate to the new car. And I subsequently changed that to Chatham also.
Okay. Also on
So the Mini Cooper has been done.
Also, on the application, there's a question regarding your income tax filing. And on the federal, you wrote Dudley Road, so I assume that's Newton. That was the, so you,
Yes.
on your federal income tax, you recite Dudley Road as your residence, mailing address,
Yes,
I guess.
yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct,
Okay.
correct. And
Thank-
also
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, also the real estate tax bills from day one that I bought my property has always been sent to Dudley Road because that was known and convenient to me, I guess, okay? And also when I registered my cars to Chatham, okay, the RMV's website, okay, specifically says, oh, we will mail the registration to Newton that was on file before, okay, so that just to guard against fraud, I guess, or whatever, you know, because people are doing things online, we don't know always whatever, you know, so. But the case is that the cars are registered in Newton. I'm not sure, in Chatham. So,
Your driver's license, which runs to 2029, has a Newton
Yes.
address.
correct. I had made the change to that also, and, you know, they haven't sent me anything with any changes to it, and meaning, in other words, I probably have to, when it expires is when the new
When-
address gets put on, I guess.
When
I'm
did
not sure.
when did you apply to make the change on the driver's license?
I applied to make a change, like, I think it was early in the year, because, after, maybe 2 months ago, I'm not sure, I don't remember. And the reason why is that if the license address is one of the mandatory things required, then of course I would change that. I didn't realize that was the case, that I needed to change, and I didn't want to get, say it's lost or something, get a new driver's license.
What is the date when you believe you became a resident of Chatham?
January 25.
Okay. All right, thank you.
That's how I put it, I guess.
Thank you.
I'm there almost every day.
Ms.
I've been through the
Potash.
blizzard too, without power.
Okay, so
Ms.
Mr. Gahn,
Potash.
Mr. Gahn, good evening, Randy Potash here. I
Hi.
think you listed
Hi.
that you're domiciled in Chatham's actually since January 1st, 2025. That's on your application, that sound right?
That's what I said, January
Yeah,
25.
Yeah, no,
Yes, that's what I
January
said,
1st.
January
Oh, I see
25.
what you mean, but it was January 1.
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah,
a
I-
mailbox in Chatham at your house, or do you go by a PO box?
It's a mailbox down by the road, okay?
Okay.
I'm up in a hill, okay? It's about 300 feet from there, okay?
Okay, yep.
So I'm not exactly comfortable. Matter of fact, packages coming to me and all that stuff sometimes get dumped down on the road instead of driving up and put into my front door or steps, okay?
So you
I've had
prefer to
stuff-
use your other mailing address, right? Okay,
Well,
just
in
prefer
this, going forward, okay, if the requirement is to have Chatham as the address of the, can I say professional documents, if that was the case, it goes, I changed that to the real address of Chatham.
okay,
That's not an issue.
so would you be willing to come back at another point in time to Ms. Gagne and provide her with a license with your Chatham address on it, and get your mail in Chatham when it comes to your domicile paperwork, and then just reapply?
So, okay, when you say reapply, does that mean it's next year?
No, whenever you get that done. I'm just throwing that
Oh,
out there
okay.
as an option.
No.
Oh,
No? Can't
sure,
do that?
sure, I would
Criteria.
love
No.
to.
There's a
So we
Oh, I
only
would
have a
love to,
window,
okay.
a 2-month window where
Oh, I
we
apologize.
accept
My bad.
applications. And I will say that I think it was probably after Mr. Gong received the denial letter, he did go down and put his name on the town census. So that would be the first, where the clock starts, so that he
Yep.
would be eligible next year
Okay.
in July, once he satisfies that domicile requirement. And again, just need the documentation so we can start that clock ticking. And if he applies again within that 2-month window, once he satisfies that durational requirement, then the permit would be handed to him.
Okay.
May I speak?
Mr. Gong, is that clear to you?
It's not clear, and the reason why I say that it's not clear is because when you weigh heavily on the census, okay, I don't even fill out census, okay, and I think there's federal law that I'm supposed to, okay, but it's just one of those things I don't even do. But that's weighing the census as the ultimate. Can I say the clock? Okay, the ultimate clock. So yes, I if that's one of the requirements is to put my name on the census, I did it. But then the clock starts on whatever date that you had, July or whatever it was. That means that in 2027, that's when I can request the commercial permit.
Well,
You see what I'm saying? So I've lost this year.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
you know, when one reads the Shellfish rules and regs, it's very clear to me that, you know, you need to provide a current driver's license that has Chatham as an address, and you do not. And then you need to make sure that your vehicles are registered in Chatham. Right now, what we can see is at least one is in Newton. And I think it's important that you prove that you're domiciled for a year in Chatham. I think your tax return ought to have a Chatham address, and I think that would get folks comfortable. But, so I'm not comfortable approving your appeal this evening because you don't, in my mind, meet the criteria that the rules and regulations in Chatham have laid down. And that is what our Shellfish Advisory Committee came to that same conclusion. So unfortunately, I think you have to wait a while and reapply so that you get your ducks in a row in terms of the proof of your 1 year of domicile and that, in fact, you live here and you've lived here for a year. So I don't know, Turf, please, the rest of my board members here, our board members, please weigh in. Mr. Smith.
Well, we can have further, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman, we can have further debate, but I'm going to make a motion that we uphold the Shellfish Constable's denial of this permit. I don't think we're able to undo this because the regulations clearly state what you have to have. Mr. Gong does not have it. He now knows what he needs, and maybe next year he can reapply.
And I'll second that motion. Any further comment? Any
Mr.
comment?
Chair, it is a public hearing.
I'm going to, yep. Any further?
Hearing.
Any further comment from the public? I was just going to that, Mr.
Me?
Castro, but thank
Can I
you.
say something on that too? My excise tax is being paid in Chatham. Okay, that was asked for me at the window also, besides my driver's license.
Again, Mr. Gong, I don't want to prolong this, if you will, and I don't want to be,
Okay.
I don't want to
Thank
be,
you.
I don't want to be impolite as well, but it's clearly stated in the regs, you need a couple real clear pieces of documentation that you lack. So our hands are kind of tied on this one. So you're welcome to apply again, and I'll see you out there on the flats. But we have a motion and a second on upholding this decision of the Shellfish Advisory and deny the appeal, and I'll call the roll unless there are other comments from the public. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. So we'll see you in the future, Mr. Gong, and I'll see you out there in the
Okay,
flats.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening. Okay. Thank you, Renee.
You too.
Okay. We have another public hearing this evening to the application for a change of manager on our all annual alcoholic beverages hotel licenses for a CBI, and please have the clerk read that public notice.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the large meeting room at the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, and remotely via Microsoft Teams platform to consider applications for a change of manager on the 2 annual all alcoholic beverages hotel licenses for CBI operations, LLC, doing business as Chatham Bars Inn, from Sean Linehan to Philip Amadon for the business located at 297 and 286 Shore Road, Chatham. All interested parties are encouraged to participate.
Thank you very much, Clerk Potash. Is there anybody from Chatham Bars Inn here this evening or online? Yes, sir. Please identify yourself and come forward. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Philip Amadon. I'm the resort manager at Chatham Bars Inn. I took over after Sean Linehan, who was on the liquor license and has left Chatham Bars Inn since. So I am taking over for him in his position.
Now, Philip, how long have you been there?
3 years. I was previously the food and beverage director.
Okay. For both sides of the street?
Both sides of the street.
Okay. All right. I'll turf it to the board members here for any questions of Philip. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you.
Mr. Nacastro.
Mr. Chair, this application looks to be in order. I know it's a public hearing, but I'm prepared to offer a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And any comment from the public on this request for change of manager for CBI? Hearing, seeing none. Anybody online? Hearing, seeing none. I will take the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Philip, have fun.
Thank you.
You got a great asset down there, great asset for the town. Take good care of it. Okay, now we have another public hearing. Again, I will prevail upon our clerk Potash to read the public hearing. This is in regard to streets, and take it away.
Okay, the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the large meeting room at the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, to consider the following: Bay Lane, placement of no parking signs on the north side of Bay Lane. Shore Road, Aunt Lydia's Cove, relocate the no parking signs on Shore Road at Aunt Lydia's Way further from the intersection, plus or minus 40 feet, increasing the no parking zone. And Bell Road, two parts. Establish a no parking zone on the west side of Bell Road when entering from Stony Hill Road, and a no parking zone on the east side of Bell Road up to 15 Bell Road when entering from Stony Hill Road. Also, placement of an advisory speed limit sign on Bell Road, advisory speed to be determined. All interested parties are encouraged to participate in person or remotely via the link on the posted agenda.
Thank you, Clerk Potash. I know I can see Joni Craig, our Chair of the Traffic Safety Committee, at the podium. I think we have Chief Malzone here as well this evening. We're going to take each one of these separately. So
Yes.
we're going to talk about Bay Lane first, please, Joan.
Certainly. Before we start, again, Joan Craig, Chair of the Traffic Safety Committee. I just want to clarify for the public, because something was brought up at the last public hearing. The items that we bring before this board are not on a whim. They are not our suggestions, other than recommendations based on ideas and questions, comments, and concerns that come to us from the public. 99.9% of the time, that public is you. Once in a great while, members of our own committee also fill out the forms to present to the Traffic Safety Committee for a concern that that individual might have. It goes before our committee. We make a recommendation that should or should not go before the Select Board, who make the final decision. So I wanted to clarify that. It's not on a whim from the Traffic Safety Committee. So Bay Lane, the Traffic Safety Committee did vote unanimously on July 23rd. And I have to thank Rob Faley for putting these slides up for you and me. And it is a proposal, as mentioned, to have no parking on one side of Bay Lane. The diagram as proposed was prepared by Rob. The placement of the sign would be at the discretion of the DPW in accordance with applicable regulations and policies.
Joan, just briefly, did the residents request this?
A resident requested it, and when it came before us, I'm just so proud of our committee because we do our due diligence. And we all went down there at different times prior to our meeting, and it was definitely a safety hazard. At the end of Bay Lane, heading on to Chatham Bars Ave, there were approximately the time when I went 7 cars, 4 on one side, 3 on the other. So that if anyone, especially an emergency vehicle, but if any vehicle wanted to go into or out of Bay Lane from that area, it would have almost been impossible. An ambulance or a fire truck could not have gone down that area. Very, very dangerous. And I think for that reason, we voted unanimously to recommend this.
Mr. Meadows, I think, has a question.
I had a couple of questions. From the, in the meeting, any sense of the cars that are being parked on, are they tourists? Are they visitors? Are they employees? Is it a combination? Any sense of where the volume of cars is coming from?
There was a concern raised not only by the individual but by our members of our own committee that quite often, because it is near the inn, that a number of the employees from the inn park there.
Okay.
We don't have that proof.
Okay.
That has been, I would call it hearsay, but
Okay, understood. What my first response when I see something like this is we're just moving some of the problems around because we've had other problems on Chatham Bars Ave over the year. We've made some restrictions. We've created safer environments in some areas, and that migrates to a different area of town I'm very supportive of this, but where's the next migration of traffic going to happen? So at some point, we're going to, the whole holistic viewpoint of it, I don't know where that's going to come, but I do think it's a solution to this problem, but it's not a solution to the long-term problem. So I have a funny feeling that if we do take action on this favorably, we're just going to move the problem somewhere else.
You're not alone in that discussion, in that concern. Our committee is well aware that it is like a domino effect, and I would agree with you.
Mr. Metters. Mr. DeCastro, sorry.
Thank you. Joan, when you get a request from a particular resident, I know you meet in public session and your meetings are posted. Do you communicate with others on the same street to get a sense of whether there's any indication of?
I personally, if I see someone out, I will, but we're not required to,
There's no notification of?
not from our committee.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Joan, when you saw the 7 vehicles parked on the north side, was that a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, weekday?
Weekday.
Weekday. And
Yeah, it's usually 2 to 3 days prior to our meetings. We get the agenda quite often on the Friday before, but no later than the Monday prior to our Thursday meetings, and that's when our committee goes out to look at the requests. So it's 90% of the time, I would say it's during the week, daytime.
I echo Mr. Metters' comments. We've had the same issue. We had Barcliff and Chatham Bars Ave, Shore Road. We do it to ourselves. It's an extremely popular area with the beautiful Chatham Bars Inn and our fish pier and our observation deck at the fish pier, et cetera. So one isn't surprised by a statement by me that what we really need is a shuttle bus to alleviate the parking that is so congested down on Shore Road and elsewhere in town, but the lighthouse, now the Upweller building, Coast Guard, former Coast Guard boathouse, Bridge Street, this whole kit and caboodle. So anyway, I'm very much in favor of getting a shuttle bus established here, and I hope to work on it quickly with greater alacrity than it's been in the past. We are immensely frustrated in this town with parking. We had and you were a member, Joan, a parking working group that worked on parking for a long, long time and seemed to be stymied with a bunch of different initiatives that we suggested, most notably by downtown merchants and the notion of having paid parking, et cetera. So we're going to keep batting away at it. The safety issue, it becomes a very much a safety issue. Never mind on Bay Lane, but on Shore Road, very much a safety issue on Shore Road, with sidewalks and no sidewalks and very, very congested parking. So anyway, I would be in favor of this because a resident has expressed concern, but we have to hear from the public as well, and I would love to hear from folks in the public on Bay Lane that Mr. Phillips has his hand raised. Brian, I'll recognize you. Any other comments, obviously, from our board? Yep.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I guess first I'd like to question the due diligence of the Traffic and Safety Committee. They recommended to put up 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs on Ridgevale on the last thing. On a 19-day traffic study, out of 23,000 cars that passed, 13 of them were speeding. So I don't know, that's a separate issue. But
Yes, it is, Brian.
the thing is we have a parking problem in Chatham. And where are people going to park? I mean, I lived here my whole life. For 2 months out of the year, it's busy. People park all over the place, but then it goes away. And I don't know who the resident is. It's probably a new resident that comes and isn't aware that, people are inconvenienced like that in the summertime. I think we just stop outlawing all this parking because there's not enough parking spots in Chatham, and it's only in the summertime. Thank you.
And Ms. Potash, then I have a comment. Ms. Potash.
Could I just clarify, this is not just the summertime in this area, that there have been issues with regards to parking because of the convenience to the inn, year-round. Thank you.
Thanks, Joni. Yeah, Ms. Potash.
So I would just add that I am in favor, too, of a shuttle bus, and it's only going to get worse when Bridge Street starts to open up for even more people. But the thing that moves me is that we can't have it such that fire and rescue can't get down the street. It's not acceptable. I mean, just in the past 2 days, there's been 2 accidents. And it's just out of control. And that's when the accidents happen, is during the summertime especially. So we can't have it any other way but to, in my opinion, to endorse this.
Thank you, Ms. Potash. Mr. Nacastro, then Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I have a question, another question. Joan, was there any communication with the fire department on this?
Not by me.
Chief Malzone, do you have any comment on that?
Good evening, Lou Malzone, your chief of police. I do not know about any communication with the fire department, but I can tell you that I believe that this is a good recommendation. Even today, I drove down Bay Lane, checking these spots we're going to talk about this evening, and towards the end of Bay Lane, closer to Shore Road, there were 2 cars on each side of the roadway, making it difficult for me and my Explorer to fit through. And I think it's important to note that the request from the residents was because it was difficult to get in and out of their own driveways and to get cars through, period. And I agree 100% with the board, with Corey, that this is a classic example of displacement, right? And Shore Road has been very tough this summer, and I think at some point we'll probably all be having a discussion about Shore Road as well. But as far as the fire department, I do not know if they are aware of it.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Chair, I'm going to support this, even though there is displacement, but in my opinion, the parking problem in Chatham is not going to be solved until we have paid parking downtown as well as the shuttle. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Nacastro. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. The south side of the road, why did we choose the north side as opposed to the south side for no parking? Is there like a science to that, or we just?
Good evening, Rob Faley, Director of Public Works. So I did make several visits out there. I noticed most of the vehicles were parked on the Shore Road side of Bay Lane, on both sides of the road. It seemed like the sight distance was better if vehicles were parking on the outside of the curve, especially where it intersects Chatham Bars Ave. It seemed like the sight distance would be a safer approach to restrict parking on the inside of the corner.
Okay, thank you. I do think that, I'm not going to comment on a shuttle because we'll be talking about that down the road. But I do think we need to approach Chatham Bars Inn with, they got to have a parking plan for their employees. We can just keep chasing the rabbit's tail around here. They're just going to move to some other spot. So I support this, but it is, I think we need to approach Chatham Bars Inn. The other thing I wanted to comment on is the statistics that Mr. Phillips raised about Ridgevale Road, not on the agenda tonight, but that's a little bit enlightening, but maybe for another night.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. My further comment is, I'm supportive. In terms of the CBI, they have a shuttle bus. They have a place for their employees to park. They do encroach upon, at nighttime especially, on the golf course parking, but they get out of there early in the morning. But I watch their bus unload folks, so they need to get some stricture around the utilization of their own shuttle bus. So they're trying, but I'm not making excuses for them, but they do have their own parking, and they are working on it. So I think reaching out and reminding them that, hey, knock it off.
Well, and maybe we have to
enforce some.
Do a little bit more enforcement. If you remember, we had to enact no overnight parking at the upper lot at Chatham, the Fish Pier, specifically because we had literally, 15, 20 cars from Chatham Bars Inn parking there, whether they were residents and workers. So it's a problem that I think we need to deal with them on.
I will tell you that in the past, we have been in touch through our police department with management at Chatham Bars in the past years. Probably not recently, but because this has been an ongoing issue on many streets. So we have done that in the past.
Chief has a comment.
When this request did come in, I did reach out to Chatham Bars to try to get ahead of it and make them aware that we had a report of some employees parking at that road, and I was, like I said, trying to get ahead of it, and they were receptive, and I'm not sure if that helped at all, but I did make contact with them.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we should have an agenda item apropos of what was just said by several people, to invite the management of Chatham Bars in
Good idea.
here tonight earlier
Yeah,
to
well, if we all
talk with us about
Yeah.
parking. Thank you.
got that, Kath? Okay. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public would like to speak will recognize, either here and/or online. So we will close this piece, the Bay Lane piece, if you will, and I'll call the roll. It's been moved and seconded, I do believe. Mr. Smith? Oh, I'm sorry, a motion, please. I thought it had been moved.
I can make a motion.
Someone move approval.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Good. Okay, Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potaz?
Aye.
Mr. Mitters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Thank you, Joni. On to Shore Road.
Shore Road, again, we voted unanimously to recommend that we relocate the no parking sign on Shore Road at Arlenia's Way further from the intersection, plus or minus 40 feet. Again, there is a diagram here. Members of the community came before us. We also went to the area separately, individually, and it's quite intriguing to sit in a side street and watch what happens on that road. So there may be individuals in the audience that want to speak to it, who I and others have met with, and they met at our committee. So we did vote unanimously on this. It would just further help individuals, in this case, getting in and out of their street. As you can see, it was too close, and people are coming around a corner from the light. It's dangerous. Safety is the factor, as we mentioned earlier.
Mr. Dykens, I think we chatted about this earlier at an earlier meeting, and I'll make a motion that we approve this as well.
Okay. And I'll,
Second.
okay, thanks. We're going to have some further discussion. Just one quick question. We're moving the signs farther away from the entrance to the fish pier, in other words. So closer to the lights at the intersection of Old Queen Anne and Route 28, Old Harbor and Route 28.
Right.
And further up to the south, if you will.
That's right.
Okay. All right. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public that would like to address this issue this evening, please come forward. Yes, I don't know your name, but please come forward. Identify yourself.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name's Heather Butler. I live at 485 Shore Road, which is the home with the solar panels on top. So I just wanted to reiterate what Joan said, and she actually came and we happened to run into her and witness together what goes on here. There's parking in front of, all up and down that street, as you know. But what happens on Aunt Lydia's Way is it's basically used as a turnaround for cars that are either going to the fish pier, get to the fish pier, discover there's no parking, they loop around, and then they use Aunt Lydia's as a turnaround. So, and they do it in 3 different ways. One, they come down and they use our driveway and turn around, which is fine. They come and use the cul-de-sac to turn around. And then they also turn into Aunt Lydia's Way and then back up onto Shore Road. And that goes on daily throughout in the summer, but I will say the summer is June, July, August, September. It's busy in that area, as you know. And they're racing because they're trying to get a parking spot. There's no sidewalks. The cars are parked there, so people are walking in the street. Most recently, I witnessed a car that was turning around in Aunt Lydia's, backed up and almost ran into a pedestrian because they had bikes on the back of their car, and it's completely blind, so no one has any idea how they're coming quickly off the light, and no one who's backing up and doing that even knows that there's a danger there. And then from the other side, it's a hill. So people are accelerating. They've just gotten through that crazy fish pier parking, and they accelerate up the hill. They're not speeding, but they are accelerating, and they're going too fast for the conditions that are right there, and they don't anticipate what's going on. So it impacts us on a daily basis. We have young drivers. You have to sneak out. You get yourself halfway across the road. A car is coming. You can't see. You have to go so slowly to watch on the left that by the time you look again to the right, there's a car right on you. So it's a hazard every day. Every one of our guests comments on it, and it's a hazard to the four of us and our families, but it is a hazard to residents, tourists who use Aunt Lydia's frequently, even though it's a small lane. So it's a bigger issue than 4 people, and I think it's a really important one for us to deal with. And I support the shuttle too.
Oh, good.
And a sidewalk if you want. whatever you
Sidewalk, there we go. Oh, I love it. Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Ms. Butler. As a fan.
I might add that the day that I met with her and her neighbor, I was there for probably 10 to 15 minutes talking with them, and I saw 3 cars do 3-point turns going into Aunt Lydia's and backing out. 3 cars in a matter of 10 minutes. So I just reiterate what she said.
Okay, thank you, Joan. And we have a motion and a second. Any further comment from the public? Mr. Phillips?
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. Has there been any accidents due to this parking? Because that's for the police chief.
I don't have any data on any accidents. I haven't looked, but I can tell you that I agree with the previous speaker's concern, as I've been on Aunt Lydia's myself, and the sight lines are definitely blocked by the cars being that close to the intersection.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Smith, did you have?
Sure.
Oh, I'm not done yet. Again, there's no place to park in Chatham. It's just going to displace it and cause a problem someplace else. And it's just, again, it's just one resident that's inconvenienced. You know, all these businesses, we need places to park.
Mr. Smith?
So I do support moving the signs. I did drive up there, and it's an issue. This is sort of a minor modification. However, I'd like the DPW director to take a look at who owns that boulder on the side of the road and write a letter to who owns it.
Yeah, I know exactly what.
I'd just like to address that. The letter has been drafted. We're mailing it out.
And I might add, this isn't adding a sign. This is moving it
Yes.
20, would it be moving it 20 additional?
40.
No, total of 40, but 20 additionally, because it was already there. So do you understand what I'm saying? Or am I saying that wrong? Thank you.
So the existing signs are approximately 20 feet from the intersection. We're adding an additional 40 feet. So there'd be basically 60 feet of no parking from the intersection. If you look at the curvature of the road and the speeds that vehicles travel, we should be more like a clear zone of about 230 feet. But considering the balance we have with parking, we reduce that to something that would still improve safety, but still wouldn't restrict the amount of parking that we have available.
Thank you, Rob. Any further comment from the public here and/or online? We have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. It is approved. Our final public hearing item this evening is the parking at Bell Road. Back to you, Joan.
Yes, the committee reviewed the request from the management at Lake Street Terraces, which includes the Bell Road area, and we voted 4-1 in favor of bringing this before you. And it's to establish a no parking zone on the right side of Bell Road when entering from Stony Hill Road, and no parking on the left up to number 15 Bell Road when entering from Stony Hill Road. And advisory speed limits are suggested and would be determined by the appropriate people, the police department, and where they would be placed would be the DPW.
And why did this transpire?
There have been issues with people parking, and when we met, we were also given photos of individuals parking actually on the sidewalk of Bell Road. Couldn't park on the street because it was a pretty narrow area, so they were parking on the sidewalk, and this was a concern by the management. I know there are other individuals who maybe want to speak to this. We've had conversations with a number of individuals, both pro and con.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. Any comment from the board at all until we hear from the public? Okay, we'd like to hear from the public, those folks. Yes, ma'am. Pam?
Either one. Good evening, and thank you for your service to Chatham. I'm Pam Mahoney, as you know, and I live at 27 Bell Road, one of the single-family homes. I asked the board to reject the proposed parking ban and speed sign request for Bell Road. I also asked the town to review and remove the no parking tow zone signs installed in front of the apartment without town authorization. I submitted exhibits A through O on the 18th because public comment time is limited, and those exhibits provide the supporting records and timeline I'm going to refer to here. Parking rules should address a real documented concern. The objective record shows no safety or access concern on Bell Road. Fire chief, no concerns. Chatham Records Department, zero issues, zero anything. Parking violations, nothing. DPW, no plowing concerns. And an independent civil engineer confirmed the road width at 24.5 feet supports parking. These findings apply to all of Bell Road, which I said has a 24.5-foot paved cartway. Other roads with similar dimensions allow parking. Bell Road should receive the same standard. There was no documented concern involving emergency access, plowing, traffic, or parking. This began with one incident involving a visitor's car at my house. I apologized. I offered to cover any damage caused to the lawn. I put my commitment in writing. It's never happened again. To my knowledge, this is the only parking concern on the road. The documents in the packets I gave you show inconsistencies in Lake Terrace's description of the issue and the timeline. I asked the board to review those carefully. Authority over Bell Road should be clear and consistent. The single-family homes do not appear to have a recorded easement for use of the private road. I asked the town to clarify the road's legal status and the authority for parking restrictions. Lake Street brought its request to the Traffic Safety Committee, which recognizes the town's role in parking decisions. Yet before the July 23rd meeting, it emailed their tenants about housing consequences under a parking rule that had not been adopted. It also posted no parking tow zone signs for another section of Bell Road. Lake Street Terrace has described neighbor frustration and asked neighbors to communicate. Those concerns do not establish a documented reason for a public parking ban on yet another section of the road. Our 3 single-family homes have 34% less frontage than the minimum requirement in Chatham. We can fit 1 or maybe 2 cars in front of our homes. Street parking helps residents, it helps renters, it helps caregivers, and low-income neighbors stay connected. We're being asked to park far away on another street. There's no more parking, and for no documented reason. I asked the board to reject the proposed ban and speed sign request, remove any unauthorized signs, and use a documented evidence, site visits, and proper public process for future decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thanks for this.
I also have one thing. I have a petition, which I didn't have time to give you in your packet. So I have that here with 13 people saying they oppose the ban. Do I bring that to you, or?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep. I recognize Mr. Nacastro.
Could I just clarify, when she mentioned that our information was presented, it was not by the Traffic Safety Committee? I just wanted to clarify that.
And I would like to hear from the chief, but Mr. Nacastro.
Yeah, first 2 things. Ms. Mahoney referenced a submittal she made on the 18th.
Yes.
And that's this. I request that this be included in the record of the public hearing.
Sure.
I don't know who answers this question. It was mentioned by Ms. Mahoney that there was an, quote, independent civil engineer. Who requested that? Who engaged it? You did. Okay, thank you. And a question for Joan or the chief. Why are you proposing banning parking on both sides? I know on one side it's a shorter distance.
I'd prefer that Rob answer this. We usually make these suggestions with the help of both the police department and the DPW. Rob went up, took a look, and made these suggestions.
Yeah, thank you. So the request was to restrict parking on the right-hand side of Bell Road where the sidewalk is coming up from Stony Hill. Because of the curvature of the road and it's narrow at the intersection, just felt it was better to ban parking on both sides in that one area.
Okay.
Didn't really impact any residents because it's just a wooded area on the left-hand side, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Just more of a safety concern.
A question for Joan. So I'm looking at the petition that we just received. Of the 13 names here, it looks like 4 of them list a residents of Bell Road. Did the committee hear from any other people on Bell Road besides Ms. Mahoney?
No, we have not.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Joan.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I had a question, a couple of, Bell Road, that is town-owned?
That is, I'm sorry?
No,
Rob, please, yeah, we got to clear this up.
Yeah, it's a unique situation. It was developed as part of the Lake Street Housing Authority. It's a 33-foot right-of-way owned by Lake Street Housing, but the town, there's a gray area in the contract. The town is responsible for the maintenance of the pavement and plowing snow. So the signage is kind of a gray area. It's not addressed specifically, but we figured it had to do with road maintenance, so we were kind of tied into it that way.
Is that, maybe it's to the previous speaker, is that how you're referencing the unauthorized signs? Correct. Okay. And Chief, because we saw photos of this, I think at a different meeting, earlier meeting, parking on the sidewalks, is that not already unlawful?
It is, and that's really what this brought to the department's attention, was that there was a concern about vehicles parked on the sidewalk. On July 28th and I believe August 4th, Sergeant Ryder issued citation warnings for the parking on the sidewalk. I've had conversations with Ms. Mahoney about them, and I have not seen that repeat itself since it's been addressed. But that was the concern of the department, with that these vehicles were on the sidewalk.
Okay. I did drive up here as well. I did a lot of driving today for these parking issues. And on the east side of the road, the top of the diagram, that's also sloped, right? That's a pretty sloping area there. On the other side, am I right, or am I correct in that on the landward side, no, that's not right. On the other side of the sidewalk from the street, seems to be a lot of area there. Is that permitted parking? So off the sidewalk, but towards the woods building?
Right now, there's no parking area there. So yes, I would say as of now that parking on the street is permitted.
In the street and on the west side of the proposed parking area, where the sidewalk is, sorry, on the west side of where the sidewalk is.
Need a pointer.
Yeah, and
this is,
Yeah.
there's an the sidewalk is here.
Right.
And then on this side, seems to be a lot of open space.
Oh, you need to use the mic.
I believe there's lawn there. I'm not sure there's room to park there, but I haven't really looked at it for that purpose.
Okay.
And again, the concern for the department was parking on sidewalk anywhere in town.
Yeah.
And that was addressed. And that's really when this all came to light for the department, was through the committee. And I can confirm that we haven't had any complaints of any motor vehicle or parking infractions on Bell Road in quite a while, probably about a year and a half.
Thank you. And Ms. Mahoney, the previous speaker here, four of these petitioned folks live on Bell Road, or maybe 5, but like one of them is, Am I reading this right? 20 South Street, East Dennis. Are they like doing something? They must be a provider of.
You need to use the mic. Sorry.
12 South Street, East Dennis is Lynn Adams Kelliter, whatever she put for her name. That's my mother, and she stays with me typically from Thanksgiving through January. Has real problems walking, so anything close by is really the preference.
So these other folks that, excuse me, Brewster, Westwood, they have some they're doing something here, I assume.
Well, the Brewster is probably the professional engineer. Is that Linda Cronin?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's a professional engineer. You can name anyone, but I can tell you. People that visit our house.
Okay.
The people that were parking, they were parking on the sidewalk were my J1s that worked at Del Mar, or still work there. And I really did try to communicate with them. I think I gave you text messages asking them to park, not the way they were, and then I finally had to give them a picture. So you go back to the basics. A picture doesn't have language barriers. So that's on me. I should have done that. I never even thought to do it. I've lived there 8.5 years, and I've never had a parking issue. And I think I resolved it pretty quickly once I knew about it. And I don't think I think I'm the only one that uses the road.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just trying to figure out who these folks were. They have some affiliation here.
Yeah.
That's my point. Thank you.
Mr. Metters, then Mr. Nacastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Rob said this area is kind of like a gray area of jurisdiction and everything. So my questions, I have a couple of questions. So one, the existing signage up there, is there any violations of that existing sign? If we move forward with any signage, are we in any violation? If there is an enforcement issue, is it upon the town to enforce it? Is it the housing authority, the property owner of the complex that is going to have to enforce it and incur any fees, liability? Those are things that could be helpful to understand as we move forward. Good time to clarify some of this stuff.
So I would say that the signage that is more at the top of Bell Road on some of the light posts that say tow zone, they're not something that the town is going to enforce. And I probably a good question for the DPW director as well. In my opinion, those signs should probably come down. There are slow children 10-mile-an-hour advisory signs on the other side of the road, which are, I guess they're on their sidewalks on light posts. So there are advisory signs that they've posted up there, but those tow zone signs are not the town signs.
And if we approve this sign, no parking, and someone wants it enforced, who's enforcing it?
It being a town road, the police department would enforce that.
Okay.
Again, this is a gray area. We've discovered a number of these with different contracts over the years in town. We're going to try to clarify some of these, but this is something, the select board has never accepted this road as a town road. Maybe that's something that needs to happen, but that could be for a future agenda item.
Quick question for the chief, please. Other than the two instances of parking on sidewalks, have there been other complaints on this road about parking and access?
No.
Have there been any complaints about access by emergency vehicles or difficulty getting in there, either by fire or ambulance or the police department?
No. The last complaint I found, I believe, was 2023, and it was a isolated report of a speeding vehicle.
Okay. And then, Ms. Mahoney, I'm sorry to bother you again, but where do you live exactly? Are you near where they're? Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I've had my questions, and then I've got Dean and then Randy.
Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned about the
Yeah, me too.
authority of the town to do anything here, because it's been represented by the DPW director that the property is owned by the Lake Street Housing Development, and we have apparently some contractual obligation to maintain it. Has there been any discussion with, consultation with town council on this at this point?
No, there hasn't. We've only discovered the agreement recently.
Okay.
It was crafted 20 years ago or so.
Thank you. I'm not prepared to take a vote
Yeah,
on this
me-
tonight. I request that we have town council review this and advise us as to what our authority is, and then we can make an informed decision. I appreciate the perspective of the committee and the chief and the DPW director in trying to address a concern that was raised by the Lake Street people, and, we hear from Ms. Mahoney, and so that's where I'm at. I just don't think we're ready. I think the hearing should be continued.
Randy, then Corey.
No, go ahead. Craig.
No, I was just going to ask, yes, I agree. We should continue this public hearing. Procedurally, do we have to have a date certain, or can we,
Yes, we'll need a date.
a date certain? Recommendation from staff as far as a date, if we,
I would make it a month at least.
I would say at least.
A month.
I was thinking maybe the 29th, September 29th, to give town council and staff time to look through.
okay, I'll
Any
let
past-
Randy speak, but I'd be able to make a motion for that.
I think it's clear we need to continue the public hearing. Randy,
Yeah,
please.
I was just going to say, I went down there, I talked to some people, and it seems like the big issue was parking on the sidewalk. And I went down a few times just so I could see, and I did see a car not parked on the sidewalk, but a little bit up on the grass across from your house. And so I would frown on that, because my understanding is you shouldn't park on the grass. It's actually quite a wide street. I don't think it's narrow at all. And I don't agree with doing anything tonight anyway, but I also don't think that there's going to be much of an issue if people just park on the street across from your house. And I think more of the issue is up the street further where kids get off the school buses. There may be a valid reason to have some no parking up that way, just in case a bus comes and there's no way for everybody to get by. So that's my feeling.
Could I also mention that management was not able to come this evening, but the other issue that was raised was, and it's not consistent, but speed, especially with a lot of young children up there, so.
I think really to continue the public hearing is prudent. I think management ought to be here as well, and I think we probably should put it off till the 29th or so.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue the public hearing for Bell Road until September 29, 2026 at our 5:30 Selectmen Board meeting.
I'll second that.
Mr. Metters, would you accept an amendment to include a request to town council?
Yes.
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had a motion to, or we're going to, a motion to postpone or continue, I should say, this hearing until the 29th of September. It's been moved and seconded. Call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. So we'll have another conversation on the 29th, and I think that's the correct
Thank you
outcome.
very
of this-
much.
Correct outcome of this hearing. Okay, so we navigated our way through the public hearings this evening. On to our consent agenda. We have 5 items on our consent agenda, and I know there's one item I believe Mr. Metters would like to discuss outside the running of the consent agenda.
A light lift. I just asked that item B, consider proclamation of National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, should stand as a standalone agenda item that we could read the proclamation. No objection to it. I just think it deserves its own spotlight.
Okay. So this evening on our consent agenda, we have the acceptance of a memorial bench donations at Veterans Field from Karen Solar in memory of Joe Abbey. As Corey just noted, we'll be reading the suicide prevention proclamation. We also have a request by Monomoy Yacht Club for their annual Harding's Beach Party from 3 to 6 p.m. on Wednesday, September 9th, something we've always approved. We also have a request for approval of the use of town property at Harding's Beach parking lot for the annual Monomoy Regional Middle School Back-to-School Cookout on September 18th, 2026. And then we also have the Employee Engagement and Recognition Committee requesting town approval of the use of town property, Harding's Beach second parking lot for a town employee recognition event on Thursday, September 10th, 2026, from 2 to 4 p.m. So a whole host of consent items. Why don't we please read the proclamation for the suicide, and then we'll vote when Mr. Smith comes back on the rest of the consent.
Okay. I was going to move approval. Consent agenda.
Okay.
I could second that, and then we could address
And
the
then we'll
preventative.
take the vote
use.
when Stuart comes back.
Okay,
All right, I move approval of the consent agenda minus item B.
Okay.
second.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Potash, please
All
read the
right.
proclamation.
National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, Proclamation 2026. Whereas September is recognized nationally as the Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and the Cape and Island Suicide Prevention Coalition invites our communities, mental health advocates, prevention organizations, survivors, and allies to join together in destigmatizing mental health and taking proactive action towards suicide prevention. Our goal is to increase awareness of mental health and suicide prevention resources and strengthen connections to appropriate support services. And whereas, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, 48,800 people died by suicide in the United States in 2024, with provisional data indicating a similar number in 2025. Suicide remains one of the leading causes of death nationwide, including among youth and young adults. And whereas nationally, the United States experiences an average of 133 suicides deaths per day, and each loss is estimated to directly affect more than 135 additional people, including family, friends, service members, co-workers, and community members. And whereas in Massachusetts, the statewide suicide rate was 8.6 per 100,000 in 2023, while Barnstable County's rate was 11.7 per 100,000, underscoring the urgent need for local action, prevention, and community engagement. And whereas the Cape and Islands Suicide Prevention Coalition works year-round to promote prevention, awareness, education, and action through community trainings, forums, and regional events, helping residents recognize risk factors, strengthen proactive factors, and build a network of support. And whereas the town of Chatham, Massachusetts, publicly affirms its full support for the Cape and Islands Suicide Prevention Coalition and all who work in suicide prevention, mental health, education, public safety, and research. And whereas we encourage all residents to deepen their understanding of mental illness, recognize the importance of caring for their own well-being, support one another in fostering a community where hope, connection, and help are accessible to all. Now, therefore, we, the Chatham Select Board, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2026 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Chatham, Massachusetts, and then it's going to be adopted by the Chatham Select Board on this 25th day of August 2026.
Thank you, Clerk Potash, and thank you, Mr. Meadows, for calling that out for its reading.
Mr. Chairman?
Appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my motion to include approval of the Suicide Prevention Proclamation.
Very good. And Mr.
Second.
Smith, well, you're welcome. We saved the vote for you so you could vote the consent agenda, Stuart. So the motion has been to approve the consent agenda along with the proclamation, including the proclamation. Been moved and seconded.
I'm going to step down
Oh,
for the consent agenda, not the suicide prevention, but the other.
Why don't we take them?
Okay, well,
Why don't we take them
we need to take,
separately?
okay, so take them separately.
I'll
Please move.
move
Yep.
approval of the suicide prevention.
Okay, and
Second.
okay, there you go. So, Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Castro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Meadows?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. I misunderstood, Mr. Smith. Okay. Yeah.
I move approval of the rest of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, call the roll. Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Meadows?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Okay, thank you. Back at you, Mr. Smith. Oh, yo-yo. Okay. So the next items on our agenda are the report out from the Finance Committee on their study of the residential tax exemption and the report out on the exemption working group, the Coast Guard, the beam at the Chatham Lighthouse, prohibition of large events on North Beach, and reviews, proposed community survey, and our annual community review process, and then town meeting's monthly report. There'll be public comment allowed on each one of these. 3-minute public comment. Mr. Daniel will have more than 3 minutes to go through his working group presentation. And with that, I'll introduce Mr. Daniel. He and his...
Mr. Chairman, did you want to ask if there were any public comments now on the business agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any public comments now on any of the agenda items? You will also be able to comment on each item as they are presented. Lots of comment here. Okay. So thank you, Mr. DeCastro. Anybody online want to comment? No. Okay. So as way of introduction, we've had our resident.
Yep.
Oh, Mr. Buckley. Late to the game. I didn't see your hand.
Sorry. Yep. Well, you guys are moving really quickly. Very good for you.
We're trying.
Yes, I want to comment on 6D and 6E. Thank you.
Okay, when the time comes, I hope, right?
Right.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, that moves things along. Again, welcome Stephen Daniel. Stephen's the chairman of our Finance Committee, and he's had a subcommittee working very hard on a real hard down study of the residential tax exemption, its potential impact on Chatham, with a host of recommendations and a working paper that he's presented both online and here. We received it a few days ago, had much time to look at it and analyze it and think about it. So I'm going to turf the meeting over to Mr. Daniel for his comments, and then comments from the board, and then we'll have comments from the public as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To begin, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to sit with you guys tonight and run through our report and its conclusions. I appreciate the opportunity. As I'm sure you all know, a majority of town meeting voters this past spring supported the article calling to defer implementation of the RTE for a year, notwithstanding the rather late time of day and the article's placement near the end of the warrant. We're grateful that you were willing to provide support for us to take the time, set up a working group, and run through the topic. I put out a call for volunteers from the Finance Committee, and Barb Madison, Eric Whiteley, Andy Young, John Pappalardo, and I stuck our hands up. We held a number of public meetings with a range of individuals, including the Select Board, town staff, including the Assessor's Office and the Finance Director, Summer Residence Advisory Committee, and members of the public. Additionally, we also had correspondence with professionals from other towns on the Cape and beyond who have adopted or had considered adopting the RTE. So with that as background, we drafted our report, which was submitted to you, I think, last week for your review and consideration. As you may know, I hope you know, the report was voted unanimously, 7-0 by the Select Board to advance it to the Select Board, by the Finance Committee to advance it to the Select Board for your consideration. So I want to touch on our conclusions and just some of our recommendations, so as not to take too much time. The conclusions are as follows. Chatham's problem, we have determined, is broader than just property taxes. It's the total cost of being rooted here in a town that we all care deeply for. Childcare, rent, fuel, food, transportation, medical costs, elder care, legal needs, housing instability, all contributing to pressure on displacement. In order to address that broader array of challenges, we recommend a sequenced and funded ecosystem and not simply a single tool like the RTE. Our recommendations include a 3-tier, year-round community stability package, as we've termed it, financed predominantly by seasonal impact revenue already being collected by the town. We believe this kind of an approach would reach more of the population in need, than the RTE is meant to help, rather than what the RTE itself would. We also note that Chatham runs a very meaningful assistance system, but it just isn't visible as one. We know, it'd be interesting, maybe we have a little quiz. Anybody want to guess on how many assistance programs are available to residents in the town of Chatham?
I read the memo.
So, how's your recollection?
Yeah, good.
There are 28 distinct programs exist across the town, departments, area nonprofits, and regional partners that can and will provide assistance to residents of the town of Chatham. The core weakness of this assistance system is fragmentation and a lack of visibility, not absence. We did an analysis of a gap analysis. The clearest coverage gaps we determined are renters and working households without children. With most existing tools, including the RTE, structured around home ownership. Seniors and families with young children are comparatively well served by our current system, if they're aware of it. We learned that no one has actually ever measured, and I think this is of some import, we've learned that no one ever has actually measured whether the RTE actually works in retention of residents in a particular town. The RTE has been around roughly 40 years. It's currently active in 20 communities. We would be the 21st were it to be adopted by you as tax commissioners. But no state, academic, or municipal study has ever isolated the RTE effect on year-round retention. It's never been tested. It's never been disproven at the same time. We do know that the RTE does and will benefit a large number of taxpayers who don't need a tax break. Intrinsically, that dilutes the impact of what could be used to help those who are truly in need. It sort of goes without saying, the RTE does not benefit a single number of residents whose homes are held in limited liability corporations or have certain forms of trust agreements, or those who may have rentals, who live in a rental. We firmly believe, and we have heard very loudly from a wide range of our community members, that the RTE is disruptive and divisive to their sense of community, and expensive to both implement and to maintain. So with those conclusions, we have the following recommendations for the first year. Again, we're proposing a 3-year tiered system rolling in. Years 2 and 3 are covered in detail in the memorandum. I don't think it's necessary to go through those right now, but with respect to year 1, the first act would be, of course, to defer implementation of the RT for a year. That would allow us time to coordinate with council on the Council on Aging on the state senior circuit breaker. The pickup rate for that in the town of Chatham is rather low. The pickup rate in that and other communities with the RTE is very low. So that would actually serve to bring state money into the town and not displace any of our funds. We would encourage the promotion of the Chatham Senior Tax Referral Program. Again, perhaps using the Council on Aging, the Assessor's Office, both. We would support filing a homeroom petition, as Selectman Castro noted. We've had several conversations with the head of the Taxation Aid Committee. I should check my guns and note that I serve on that committee as well. But we would support the filing of a petition to expand the authority of that committee. We did have a conversation with town council about the feasibility of that. It wasn't entirely clear, I think, to the members of the working group what could formally or not informally be done. But we look at something like the Florence Selden program, the child care voucher program, which are homegrown assistance programs, and wonder why we simply can't take the tax assistance efforts, which are under the tutelage of state law, and bring it locally. we would ask that the town would make sure that it's adopted and optimized all available state programs relating to resident stability. There are a number of programs that have either not been adopted or the prospective benefits underneath them have not been optimized. So we think if there's low-hanging fruit, that's a pretty easy get. We would encourage the creation and publication of a resident stability guide, a plain English language guide that can steer people to what they need: childcare, rent, food, fuel, medical, transportation, legal, tax relief, and have a one place and ultimately a one point of entry into the assistance ecosystem that the town of Chatham provides its residents. We would encourage the implementation of the lease to locals appropriation. You may recall that we made in the spring town meeting, I think, what, 312,500 roughly, something like that?
12, yeah.
We should, get rules and get that program up and running. But also think that with respect to the MCI lease to escrow program, it's not clear to us how well that's documented and what the IP retention rate is on that program in the town. But we think there could be grounds for expanding that program, and we should certainly attempt to capture the IP associated with administering and running that program. As I said, the recommendations for years 2 and 3 are embedded in your report, which you all have, and we can address those separately at a separate time, should you wish to go down that path. I would also say that, notwithstanding our hope that you will consider the deferral of the RTE to consider these other potential programs, many of these things can be effective if there were a full-time RTE present. So they're not necessarily, it's not exclusively one or the other. So I think that's basically it. Happy to take any questions or other.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and thank you to your committee as well, your subcommittee, for all the hard work. I will turf it to the board. Mr. Nicastro has his hand up, and Mr. Nicastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stephen, thank you very much for your report and your presentation tonight. I should say that as liaison to the Finance Committee, Stephen and I met over the weekend because I wanted to share my observations about the report with him and give you an opportunity to think about what I had to say. Let me just say overall, I'll try to make this quick. Overall, I think it's a very comprehensive examination of what's out there, both historically and currently, in terms of RTEs and assistance that's available for vulnerable members of the community. And I applaud the significant effort of the good members of your committee who served on this. I agree with this recommendation of a comprehensive guide. I think you forwarded me a sample of one from another town. I also agree with the recommendation that there be some sort of a navigator personnel in the town, perhaps located in the Department of Community Services. I know the Council on Aging does a lot of this now. On the sort of the more critical side, I think I said it last week at the summer residents meeting. I think it would have been a plus if the proposal had included the idea, which you mentioned tonight about, and which I know you agree with, about expanding the role of this Taxation Aid Committee. And let me say, with respect to a home rule petition for a modified residential tax exemption that is targeted to need-based members of the community, I would support that. I think that in terms of a couple of the particulars, there's some discussion, significant discussion of the experience of the town of Lexington and the town of Concord. Lexington considered a modified residential tax exemption that was targeted only to help seniors. I don't know why they did it that way. They ultimately decided not to do it. They didn't think it would work. But I'm not sure that's a particularly helpful analog. Lexington is not, neither of these towns is comparable to Chatham. Lexington has 35,000 people, Concord has 18,000. They're not seaside resort communities. I mean, they're historical, and it's nice to visit them, but they don't have the influx of seasonal visitors that we have in Chatham, for which we have to provide a huge physical and human infrastructure. Concord came up with something, I don't think it was an RTE, I'd have to look at the report again, but it seemed to, and it didn't invite much participation, and I think part of the problem was it was a really complicated mechanism, so then maybe that was the reason. The suggestion that the senior tax deferral be promoted, which is available to them now, my concern about that is if all the seniors that are eligible start deferring their taxes, somebody's got to make up the annual budget each year, so that presents a challenge. I do appreciate what your report has to say about the current exemption that is available and the potential exemptions and the interaction with the circuit breaker, which presents a complication, whatever we do. I do appreciate that you looked at the available assistance programs for younger people and older people, and you focus on the fact that the folks in the middle don't seem to have much, and they don't. I guess I would not draw from that the conclusion that the younger folks are really doing all that well. I just hear anecdotally that they still have a real challenge making ends meet to live in this town. And as far as you're absolutely right that there is limited experience or no experience to know whether the RTE works in terms of retaining or inviting year-round property owners, with one notable exception that you note in your report, and that's the town of Nantucket. A year ago, when we talked about this in August of 2025, I had spoken with our director of assessing and our then assistant director, the new director. They communicated with the assessor in Nantucket, and Nantucket's had it for 40 years. And to the knowledge of that individual, from the time probably running around 2000, it was implemented in 1979, to the present time, it really didn't move the needle very much. So I think the RTE doesn't do much in terms of that providing that particular benefit. There may be other reasons to argue in support of it. So in sum, what people are hearing tonight are things you heard from me on Saturday when we met, and I'm happy to entertain any responses you wanted to make on it. But I think it's a good report. I think that it should be read, and people can draw whatever conclusions they want from it. I'd like to see the town focus on the home rule petitions that we've been talking about, as well as the sort of bringing some a regimen to the information of programs that are out there that can help some folks that are in need. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Those are
Mr.
my comments.
McCaskill. Thank you so much. Mr. Metters had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, obviously, the RTE has been a big conversation piece over the last couple of months. I think it's unanimous that this board wants to help our citizens, our taxpayers. There's no pushing back at that. The dialogue around the RTE, in my opinion, there's flaws with it. And to kind of simplify it, there's three little points. Is one, yes, it will help some people. That's good. It'll also help people that don't need it. Yeah. It will hurt people that for one reason or other, maybe their estate planning or other aspects of their life model, we're going to penalize some of our citizens. And I'm having a hard time voting in favor of an RTE that is going to negatively impact some of our citizens. It is divisive. We're a small town. I mean, that's not the only reason we should vote against something. But I do think there's other mechanisms available. The Finance Committee, the subcommittee has identified a certain path that is definitely worth exploring. And we can kind of reach the goals that we've set for it. But with all respect, I think the RTE as presented isn't the right tool to use. And, on the first, I'm not promising anything, but I've voted against it before. There's been very little that is making me sway my vote to vote in favor of it. And at the very, very least, I know I got an email the other day. Someone said, the board should vote unanimously in favor of this. It will send a message. Well, if we vote in favor of it unanimously, it is going to send a message, and maybe that's the wrong message. So I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. So I appreciate the work of the Finance Committee and the subgroup. I appreciate all the dialogue that has happened on this, and I appreciate any other input people want to provide to the board between now and September 1st when we make our tax classification hearing decisions. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Metters. Anybody else? Ms. Potash?
Well, sure.
I have comments as well.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into an argument about the merits of the RTE right now at all. I just would say that I've been drawn to the Finance Committee for several years now because of their intelligence, their professionalism. I learned something from every meeting I've attended. They treat the public with utmost respect and each other. And so this report was also done under that same type of attitude, and I appreciate it. I also appreciate Stephen Daniel telling us that you just admitted that it doesn't need to be one or the other. And I think I've told you all along the way that I don't think so either. I think it should be both. And I've already committed to supporting the RTE for reasons that I'll mention more next week. But I want to just point out that the fact that it hasn't been repealed in all the other towns that have it, to me, is proof of satisfaction. Because there could have plenty of opportunities to repeal it through all these years. Mashpee, it was like a cold drink on a Saturday afternoon when they approved it recently. It was no big issue, and their population is very similar to ours with regard to summer residents in year-round. Also in Wellfleet, when they just went through it again, the Wellfleet residents that don't benefit from it just asked for it not to be raised. They didn't ask for it to be lowered or repealed. So I think there is some evidence that it's appreciated by people. I have not heard any numbers that tell me that there's a substantial amount of LLCs, that there's a substantial amount of trusts that are not qualified. I know that the Office of Assessors they've bent over backwards to try to look at every trust and really try to make sure that if somebody qualifies, if they can show, the domicile, they will give it to them. So I have not seen any evidence of a substantial amount of that. I've seen a substantial amount of people that aren't going to benefit, making a lot of noise, concern, and I don't blame them at all. It's not perfect, but I will just say that in the last 10 years, people's taxes here have gone up 25%, and their salaries or whatever they're living on has maybe gone up nothing. And everything is expensive. And so we need to do all we can, I've said it numerous times, to help people that are year-round residents here that participate 12 months out of the year to make Chatham what it is when people come during the summer and appreciate it. It doesn't happen automatically. It happens because of a lot of volunteers and a lot of year-round residents that sweat it out. And so that's my position. But again, I say it with the utmost respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Mr. Smith?
Sure, thank you. I'm not going to dwell on it. I think we're going to chat about this next week.
On the 1st, we have a
so there'll
public
be
hearing, a tax classification hearing on September 1st.
So there'll be some discussion at that point. I appreciate the Finance Committee's report. I've read it a couple of times. I'm going to read it again. there are some things of interest in there. As I've said before, I don't see this entirely as a needs-based issue. I ran on this for this office, and I heard loud and clear from the people in this community, the voters of this community, who said, it's too expensive to live here. We need some assistance in that. And I'm going to do everything I can to support that. It may include some of the ideas the Finance Committee or the summer residence folks come up with. But I'm, you know, my mind has not been changed on the RTE. I feel very strongly about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. I have a few comments as well. This has been a hot-button item. We've spent some considerable mature conversations with the Summer Residence Advisory Committee on a number of occasions, both as a group and individually. And I appreciate the work that the Finance Committee has put together here in this package. And just a couple things. I think the channel perhaps needs to be changed a little bit on, you know, the needy. I think this is a mechanism that is used by other states, in fact, with state legislation, statewide legislation, where if you have a primary residence in the state, you get a tax break. Well, what we're saying is, via local means, via a vote of the select board, we can impart a tax break if you have a primary residence in Chatham and you meet the criteria. I don't see. I understand it's not means tested, and if we can ever get to a point where we can craft a means-tested residential tax exemption that is more meaningful to us, I absolutely will entertain its construct and its passage, if you will, and would embrace it. And I don't believe passing the RTE, voting for the RTE, is a stop. I think we continue with these efforts, and I would hope that the more talented amongst both the summer residents and our Finance Committee would continue their intelligent efforts to look at how we kind of level the playing field in terms of our year-round population. I ran as well and heard the exact same messages that Stuart heard when I ran in that election. And I think if you don't go knock on doors and have meetings with residents, you don't hear it. And I think that's some of the frustrations from some of the summer residents, if you will. They haven't heard it. What I heard from the year-round residents is that we're starting to lose and have lost some element of what they would call the fabric of the community, the backbone of the community. And they look around, folks look around and see an investment community rather than real community. I don't know how else to put it. Now, is that a bad thing? It's a huge market out there, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But it's tantamount to why folks are being displaced. And it's not just property tax relief that these folks might seek or appreciate. It's everything else. It's the whole grab bag that Stephen laid out. Childcare, rent, fuel, food, healthcare costs, wages not going up and everything else going up. So it's all packaged in a package that, as a select board member, at least I'm able to vote for one little piece of the puzzle that may well provide some local financial relief. So everybody's heard me say that time and again, but I'll say it again. And it's more palpable when you go and talk to people. That's what I'll tell you. Your Tier 1 recommendations, I went down, every one of them, coordinate with the Council on Aging for state circuit breaker, no-brainer. Promote the Chatham Senior Tax Deferral Program. I agree with Select Board Member Nicastro that I think it's a fairly viable avenue to travel down, except it's going to cost us some bucks. So we just have to be a little bit careful about how we promote that, if you will. Resident stability guides, no-brainer, whether it's a navigator, whether it's partnering with an outside human services firm or our human services committee or the community development. That's a great suggestion. We need to plant that somewhere so that folks understand where the 28 programs that do support our locals, our residents, exist and how they can avail themselves of that. Baseline resident assistance dashboard, I think that's an excellent suggestion as well. lease to locals, we passed that, and I think we also have something afoot with respect to if you rent to locals, you'll get perhaps a tax break as well. I think that's an excellent suggestion. And then your earlier reference, Stephen, to the expansion of the MCI Marconi to lease, where are we with it? How successful has it been, and could we expand that going forward is another excellent suggestion. So there are a lot of pearls of wisdom in this report that we can carry forward, I think, to the future and really act upon. Again, in your medium term, is single point resident navigator, expand the Human Services Committee grant pool, and then an all-age means-sensitive resident stability fund, which I think, is a key point that you make that that has maybe lost track of a little bit, but you need a funding tool there. And again, we have our transfer fee up at the State House that we've waited for decades for, if you will. I exaggerate, but many years for that hasn't been acted upon. But that's for affordable and attainable housing. Perhaps that can be redirected, who knows. But anyway, or that can go on the tax rate. I really enjoy the fact, or I appreciate the fact that you call out resolving the 1533 Main Street and Zero Meeting House permitting and financing questions, because that, affordable housing kind of does depend on it going forward. And then you also call out the approval of our home rule petition to get our real property transfer fee passed. So really appreciate the report. I know you guys met on numerous occasions and had very focused, cogent, and valuable discussion that I think is meant to add value. I know none of the Finance Committee wants the RTE. I know none of the SRAC wants the RTE. But unfortunately, I am going to support it because I believe in my heart of hearts that our local residents need the RTE. So I will vote for it. So those are my comments. Any other comments? Again, I was going to allow folks to comment 3 minutes each. More than welcome to comment. Mr. Daniel.
I want to offer a closing comment. There is little, I think, in the Tier 1, 2, and 3 roster that anyone sitting on the stairs right now should find objectionable, I would think. They are all different means by which we can secure the future of this community, which we all agree on the working group and on the Finance Committee has been eroded significantly. I think regardless of what you men and women choose to do on the classification hearing next week, if you're tired of hearing about free cash, I think we're going to continue to be a rock in your shoe on this stuff, because there's a lot of stuff we can do. It's low barrier to entry, and we think we should be doing it as a community. So I had a girlfriend once who said you can get used to anything but a rock in your shoe. So just giving you a warning. So,
okay, you're going to make it a pebble or a rock?
Well, it depends how you guys think about these things. So, but I think I think, in all earnestness, I think we would like to come back after discussions with you guys to see what happens next week, of course. But perhaps there's some articles for town meeting in the future that we can work on collectively and see if we all agree, right? I think on what we're trying to do here. I think yours is a little more blunt, ours is a little more refined, take a little more time perhaps, but I think we all agree on the core issue. So that should be a good starting point. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I had a couple of hands up here. Mr. Buckley, you were first online. Your hand's up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to reiterate what Select Board Member Potash was saying about the value, and other Select Board members, and their appreciation, as I do, with the quality of advice and counsel that the Finance Committee has been providing on a regular basis under Chair Daniels. So thank you very much. I have one small suggestion, in that I never attend the Finance Committee meetings because when I look at the agenda, I never see an opportunity for public comment. And so maybe, as he indicated tonight, they get a lot of feedback, but I'd like to know, and I have attended meetings, public meetings of committees and so forth, where you sit in the audience and they never give you an opportunity, so you just wasted 2 hours listening to them. So anyway, that's just one minor point I wanted to, but I didn't want to, I wanted to be constructive criticism in that sense. And so maybe that would be one way to provide, because there are so many people who have come to Chatham, and I say that as a native, who I appreciate the pearls of wisdom, as the chair put it, that they bring here from other places and tell us what works or what doesn't work. And so, but there are people who are not on committees who can bring their pearls of wisdom, including even the locals have pearls of wisdom. If we put them all together, maybe we can make a pretty good necklace. So, and the other part is, so I just wanted to, that was my, throwing in my 2 cents. And I'm hoping that Mr. Daniel wasn't the stone in his girlfriend's shoes. I don't know if that became his wife, but I'm wondering if he was the stone, so he can tell
Somebody
us
else.
later sometime. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Just to be clear, and I think Carrie's on the phone, and Carrie and I collaborate weekly on our agenda during season, so we will certainly put in a reference to public comment, but you should always consider our meetings to be open mic night. They're a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I think it's Nicole Stern. Your hand is up online.
My hand is up. Thank you very much. I don't think it's going to make a difference, and I'm kind of disappointed in that. But I have followed the select board right from the get-go, where this was going to help all Chatham residents, to the Finance Committee, which I've attended basically most meetings, and also to the Summer Residence Committee that I pretty much have attended all meetings. Now, it's interesting because one of my questions was answered, and that was, has the residential tax exemption ever been dismantled? And the answer was no. I don't remember who said that, but it was no. Well, we all know if you're giving something away, no one is going to object. There are people that may not need it, that could afford to do a lot more, but they may have children, they may have families that need help, they may have their own organizations that they would like to contribute to, I would hope, but it's not coming back to Chatham. So we're not helping all of Chatham as we were introduced initially by the select board, that this was for all of Chatham. I truly believe that the select board was not informed on all the ins and outs of what the residential exemption really involved, which is unfortunate. So it's really very disappointing that there are people that have lived here for 30 years, 40 years, that responsibly have been proactive in addressing their end-of-life scenarios. And those people are exempt, along with others. So my conclusion is that it's divisive. We never had an issue with taxes for commercial versus residential, whatever that was all about. But summer people contribute a lot. And this business about it's because of them that we're in this position, well, our former select boards could have stopped that. But at that point, it was about having tax revenue. But we can't go back there. We can only go where we are now. I'm very disappointed. I think there are a lot of people that will be helped, and I'm happy for that. but there are also people that are on the cusp, and you're putting them in a whole different scenario. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think the residential tax exemption, which has been talked about, has no flexibility. So there will be people that are shut out that really could use a reduction in their taxes. And there will be people that have no problem with taxes that will get their taxes lowered. That makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
Nicole,
And then
I've given you an extra minute. If you could please wrap up.
I'll wrap up. And that includes our summer residents who have been here, supportive of us. Yes, maybe they build multi-million-dollar houses, but we haven't stopped them from doing that. That's what I have to say. I'm informed, I'm educated, and I think the whole thing just needs something different. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Comments from folks here that are in attendance? Anybody like to comment? Yeah, Jeff Spalter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as you mentioned, we really do appreciate the ongoing respectful dialogue that we've had on this topic over the past 100 years, whatever it's been. But the SRAC continues to support the Finance Committee's request to delay RTE implementation for a year. The Finance Committee report, which we've heard the summary of, which is a great document, has identified a number of tools that are largely available and can help full-time residents in need, recognizing there's a gap in support for renters and middle-aged residents. We should make sure existing tools are fully exploited and then assess what is needed to help others before revising tax policy for the entire town. The Select Board has not yet identified who exactly they are trying to help, nor which full and part-time residents will be hurt by the RTE. Metrics to assess effectiveness of an RTE have not been identified as far as we know. It is clear that some full-time residents, some we believe you are trying to help, will be hurt by the RTE, but there's not been an attempt to identify or quantify this group. And there are residents, both full and part-time, trying to retain a home to pass on to their children or grandchildren who will also be hurt by the RTE. We respectfully request that you delay implementation for a year. Let's do some more work. Let's reduce the divisiveness, and then please let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other comments? Okay. Elaine Gibbs, you have your hand up? G? Elaine, is your hand up? G? G? It could be a guest. Someone out there in Never Never Land has their hand up. Okay, we'll move on. Anybody here in the audience that wants to speak? Mr. Ray.
Hi, Chris Ray, North Chatham. Actually, mine was much more of a technical query. The assessors are meeting on Thursday, and normally they would be providing you with recommendations. Is it appropriate for them to make recommendations in this field, which is well trodden?
They will set the tax rate, I believe, by Thursday. I'm not positive. I think it's Thursday that they're going to set the tax rate. Now, Mr. Nicastro has his hands up. He's the liaison.
They have a classification hearing of their own on the 27th, which they do every year, and they every year make a recommendation to the Select Board on the different classifications, commercial versus residential, open space, residential tax exemption. So, I mean, I think it's something I look forward to receiving.
So on what basis would they make their recommendation about the RTE?
They'll make a recommendation. I mean, they can speak for themselves. I think the Director of Finance is on, maybe she can speak to it, but I'm the liaison to that board. I've attended, and I intend to be at the one this week. I've attended their hearing in the past. They have looked at, they're familiar with every piece of property in town. And historically, they have recommended against the RTE. And they've expressed the view that they feel it is unfair or divisive, as I recall. I suspect we might hear the same thing from them this year. So they base it, I'm assuming I can't speak for them, but I'm assuming they base it on their knowledge of the assessments in town. They have some sense of who might be needy because they entertain requests for exemptions from taxes all the time.
So how would this interact with the point that Stuart made about committees supporting the policy of the town?
Well, I didn't make that point, so I will leave that to my colleague who made the point, but it's like any other committee, they can make a recommendation to us, just as the SRAC is made. But I personally believe that the recommendation of the Board of Assessors is the most significant report that comes to us on classification, because that's what they do. That's what they do. Thank you.
Stuart?
Maybe you could say your question again. I wasn't.
So given your past position on committees supporting the policy of the board, in what way would it be appropriate for the assessors board?
Well, like any committee, and I think I've said this on a number of occasions, or board, and I think I've mentioned this about the Summer Residence Committee, they're certainly not only welcome, but I think they're encouraged to have debates, discuss these community-wide policy issues, as well as the assessors. But as the committee rules state, you got to follow the vote of the board. So in this case, the assessors, they're going to make a recommendation. I don't know what, I haven't talked to them about it, so I don't know. They're going to make a recommendation, and this board is going to make a decision, and then the assessing department is going to execute that decision. So that's consistent with what I've said.
So you're moving away from the position where it's not okay for a committee to contradict what the board is proposing?
No, I think I've said in the past, I know I've said in the past, that I think it's healthy that committees and boards have difference of opinions. We encourage them to have dialogue. We, have healthy debates, respectful debates. But like any organization, whether it's private or a governmental organization, once the decision is made by whatever board is responsible for that subject, well, that has to be followed. I don't understand that there is no other option for that.
Well, that's very encouraging to hear, because I found it very Orwellian, the idea that once the select board had uttered that no one could debate.
Okay.
No, well,
all right, guys. Mr. Ray, you're well over your time. Thank you very much, sir.
we may have to have another discussion on that.
Yeah. Anybody else? I'm sorry. Kim Burson, online, you have your hand up?
I do, thank you very much. Chair Deckens, you had mentioned that it was not a bad thing for investment owners. They might actually not benefit from this. Well, investment owners are a problem in this town. And I think what has been very clear in multiple conversations about the RTE are that there are summer residents who are very much community members, very much live here 6-7 months of the year. And you shouldn't be penalizing them. They are involved in the community. They have a significant commitment to a variety of organizations in the community. And yet, I agree, there are investment homes that do not have that commitment. And that's where you should be focusing. And that's where there are communities, both in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, surrounding areas, that are looking at that and taxing those individuals and those homes that are not lived in and are only rented. And I know that's a whole nother conversation, and one that we will be having hopefully in the near future. But I think what you're missing with the RTE is how much you're affecting your own community who are committed to this town many months of the year and have very entrenched relationships with organizations and fundraisers that could be affected. I think it's also very interesting that when you talk about a number of recent town votes, whether it be the Crowell Road intersection or the paid parking issue, the select board was very open to listening to the community and made their decisions based on what the community said. But when it comes to the RTE, deaf ears. You've made your decision, you're putting the stake in the sand and saying it doesn't matter. Even the town meeting, they voted to delay, and you're not listening to that request by your own voters. The assessor's office, I agree, another voice. But there seems to be deaf ears when it comes to this one. Think about how many community members have spoken up, whether it be in the Chronicle or at the variety of meetings, and you aren't willing to listen. And that's very disappointing. Thank you.
Good 3-minute. You did really well, Kim. Thank you. Anybody else? Anyone else on the RTE? Okay, Stephen, thank you so much, and to your committee, your subcommittee, for your hard work and your intelligent work. Very, very much appreciated.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, you bet. Okay. We have guests. Okay, we're going to move on here. Thank you, Stephen, once again. Thank you to you and your committee. Next item on our agenda is a discussion was brought to our attention, our collective attentions, in a series of emails by a group that is concerned about the beacon that's now being broadcast at our lighthouse. I would like to call forth Jason Holm, our harbor master, and Mr. John Brigden, and Seth. I'm blanking on your last name. I apologize, but Seth has also been very, very involved in this. And again, it's been a long meeting, but 10 minutes would be great. Thanks, Jason. Tee it up for us, please.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair and the rest of the Select Board. Appreciate your time. I know it's been long, so we'll try to get this moving. Tonight we have a citizens agenda request to discuss the changes to the lighthouse beacon. I have discussed this in depth with Mr. Brigden. This was brought before 2 water-related committees. Initially, the Work and Waterfront Advisory Committee, back when this was first announced via the Coast Guard, and then a follow-up most recently after the implementation and the discovery of some of the shortcomings of the change of the light. My intent personally is to write an email or meet with the Coast Guard to discuss my own personal navigational safety concerns of my own. But without further delay, I'll introduce Mr. Brigden and Seth Peretta from Chatham First Light. It's a community campaign to try to restore the sweep of the light, and I'll be standing by for any questions that you might have of me.
Thank you, Jason, and thanks for the introduction. I met with John Brigden, and he was passionate about this issue, so I guaranteed him that it'd be placed on the next agenda, so here he is. And Seth Peretta, I'm sorry I blanked on your last name, but welcome. These guys organized extremely quickly, is what I'm going to say, and the podium is yours. Again, we've had deep memos here. We're assuming we've all read them. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to be really brief. This is an incredibly long meeting already. You guys work amazingly long hours. I'm very impressed. So, you know, really just 3 parts to what we want to say today. One, just talk and explain the change so everyone understands the change that's taken place. And then two, talk a little bit about our support in the community that's outreached and support. And then lastly, a very simple request that we have for the select board. And so real quickly, the change that's taken place in July, the Coast Guard removed the 2.8 million candela light beacons that were in our Coast Guard that were installed in 1969, upgraded in 1993. Since 1877, those buildings have emitted an enormous light intensity, and they've gotten more and more intense over that 150 years. Next year will be the 150th anniversary of the lighthouse. So this change was the first time in the history of the lighthouse in which the intensity was dropped, and the intensity was dropped to less than 3% of the previous intensity. And that has not only an impact on the offshore reach of the light, which is significantly reduced, but also importantly, and perhaps what might be overmissed in all of the discussion here, and one of the reasons we want to reach out, have a collaborative dialogue with the Coast Guard, our friends and neighbors, is the importance of nearshore navigation of this light, both to the Chatham Harbor, as well as to Stage Harbor, as well as to the Monomoy Shoals. There's a document called the Coastal Pilot, which is a document that's published by the NOAA, which specifies how these navigational aids are used on our waters, and that is replete with extensive discussions about the dangers of these waters, some of the most dangerous waters in all of North America, and there's detailed instructions on how nearshore navigation is to be conducted safely and reliably with this light. So let me pause there and just turn it over to Seth, who will talk a little bit about the background on the change.
Sure, thank you very much. John and I both live back behind the lighthouse, and one day I walked outside and I was like, where'd it go? To say that it went from 2.8 million candela, which are like picture candles, down to like 78,000. We're at 3% of our intensity. And that matters because when the intensity gets sort of pushed through the light, it creates something called loom. I think we've got a great branding for a t-shirt, #GotLoom with a question mark. But that pushing of the light through the optical lens is what creates that big beam. That beam is what creates the nearshore navigational aid, which is as it sweeps from Stage Harbor through up to the fish pier. That allows a boater like myself in a 19-foot whaler without radar, maybe without a GPS or a scatter plot, to at least have that as a way to guide myself as I move through. John and I sort of chatted. We've been hearing from all sorts of folks around town, like what happened to our lighthouse. And so we started to reach out. John P. and the fishermen have been incredible. I think they're very concerned about the implications of the light. So the Cape Cod Fishermen's Alliance was like, we didn't even have to ask them. I think we were like, would you? And they were like, yes. So the Cape Cod Fishermen's Alliance jumped in. The Merchants Association and the Chamber of Commerce, very concerned with sort of the history of our lighthouse. So thinking about it more from that perspective, the Old Village Association, I think, community support for sort of restoring the beam to our light, both for navigational aid and also there is obviously the history. As we've talked about it, our 150th anniversary of this light, you can't write a better story. Let's relight the light. Let's come together, Coast Guard in town, and ultimately sort of put back the light in terms of its intensity. We're not against modern materials. We're not against LED technology, but we've done an incredible amount of research, John specifically, and I think have some great items we can talk about with the Coast Guard.
Yeah, so great. Just to wrap up here then, the request is simple. We've talked to the Historic Commission. It's a listed property in two respects, both independently as well as part of the contributing structure in the Old Village. Just like we did with the Mitchell Bridge, having a consultation with the town to figure out how do we accomplish both how it performs as an aid to navigation, which is the responsibility of the Coast Guard to decide that, but it's also a federally registered property, which puts responsibilities on our local historic commission in the town to make sure that that's respected as well. So that's a bidirectional discussion, and that's an important observation. We also talked to the Waterways Advisory Committee that Harbor Master is a member of, and they both endorse our recommendation, which is what we would like from the select board, which is if you would move or approve us as a community, working with the Committee on Waterways Advisory Committee to approach the Coast Guard and have a collaborative discussion on what are the ways in which we might provide the nearshore navigational safety to our mariners in these waters, and then come back to this committee or to the Waterways Committee with some ideas on how we might either restore the light or make modifications that would provide the level of protection that we're looking for.
Jason, I just wanted to, John and Seth, that was an extremely succinct, cogent presentation, and I thank you. You guys, you've done so much work on this in such a short period of time. It really is impressive. Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few points that I'd like to point out to the board that wasn't necessarily covered in the memo. The local notice to mariners that was presented for this by the Coast Guard was literally in the height of their campaign to reduce the buoys throughout the country. So when this was released, it was advertised as a reduction in the nominal range of the light from 24 nautical miles to 14. It was also a given that they were transitioning to LED lights. So the residual effects of what that would actually mean was unknown at the time. It was almost, billed as a means of doing business. The shipping lanes are, 16 miles off to the BC buoy, so it wasn't that much of a reduction, and almost there was no parts available is what was kind of billed with the old lights since then. And the reason that this has kind of come about is since the implementation of that, the community is seeing the results of the change and the shortcomings and what the Coast Guard has provided to replace the light, vice what is the need in this community and offshore for navigational light. And this group's done a pretty good job of looking at different options, potential options. But I did want to just kind of get that out there. This isn't an after-the-fact thing that they kind of came up to. It's just that it was originally built as a reduction in nominal range, and then these side effects kind of came to light after the installation.
After some discussion with John, I also understand that they've kind of done this elsewhere, and other communities have interceded and with some degree of success. So I think it's very appropriate. Mr. Nicastro, I believe, has his hands up.
Yeah, thank you. I want to ask a question. By the way, thank you for your report. I'm not a light engineer, but I learned a lot. Makes a lot of sense. Jason, I drove by this today, and I don't know if anyone else has seen it. It was remarkably small. It didn't appear to be lit. It's not lit in the daytime. Is that the story?
That's correct, and that's one of the concerns that I have. It's not the only light that's run by a daylight controller. That's not necessarily uncommon. The issue, it seems, with this one is that it's really sensitive. So if it detects even a little bit of light, it doesn't come on. I believe that is something that can be adjusted, but that in addition to the intensity that would create a beam that you can see when you're in close and in misty conditions, and the reported loss of lume. I haven't been out to see it myself, so I don't know if it's just a reduction, if it's a loss. But those things are my concerns. We do have Jared Fulcher in the audience that has a wide range of experience with lighthouses, so he might be able to answer any technical questions, not to put him on the spot, but he is here and present in the audience and has a lot of history on that type of application.
Thank you. Do you share these gentlemen's assertion that the effect of this is somewhat deleterious because it doesn't provide the lume that gives a guide to those who are near shore or onshore? We talked about fishermen. Do you share that is a concern?
Yes.
Okay. The only other comment I'll make is I read the letter from the Historical Commission, and it would appear on its face that there is this issue similar to what took place with the Mitchell River Bridge. I remember when the light that was recently removed was placed. I was in town at the time, about 30-plus years ago, because it was a change, because the previous light, as I recall, flashed 4 times a minute. This one then this one flashed 2, so we got used to that. Now this one is not going to flash at all. And I know there was a letter to the Chronicle by Ann Ryan. She's online here. I see her logo, icon, sort of talking about the kind of historical, I'll use the word charm of having this, and now we've lost it. So my sense is that, I'm interested to hear what our former harbor master has to say as well. My sense is that the select board should consider sending its own letter to the Coast Guard, which would be kind of a high-level letter expressing our concerns. I would incorporate the historical piece as well as the mechanical concerns. As far as the process beyond that, I mean, I'll defer to my colleagues for their input. My suggestion would be to perhaps engage the town manager, or the harbor master, or the waterways committee, and kind of task them to work with anybody in the community, any organization, this organization, to initiate or follow through on dialogue with the Coast Guard to try to get this thing resolved with our overall general support. Those are my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Metters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I attended the Waterways Committee meeting last week, and you did the presentation, so this is not new. I think this is a very important issue we need to address. You made a great presentation last week. You did another great presentation today. I guess my question is, and it kind of goes back to Select Board Nick Castro's comment, I do think this body needs to correspond with the Coast Guard. I think that is one of the things in the boxes we need to do. But the mechanism, the process, do we bring in the Waterways Advisory Committee? Are there outside private organizations that are, what is probably the most efficient way? And I don't have an answer to that, but I guess that is, we kind of chatted a little bit. Who is the we? Like who's leading this process? Because I think it's an important discussion, but I think we need to be clear of how we're doing the mechanics of it.
Thank you. I think that's kind of what we're here tonight to try to decide. I mean, from a public safety standpoint, I'm certainly intend to be vocal as far as my opinion, and I have a plan that I would move forward with. But if a more collaborative approach is warranted, then I think that's kind of what we're trying to look at here is a little bit of direction. Do we want to go at this from a number of different ways, or do we want to come from a collaborative standpoint and what that would look like?
I think a collaborative standpoint would be more efficient.
And just to add, we've talked with a fair number of other localities that have had a similar issue, and we're aware of what has sort of worked and what hasn't worked and who has been helpful and sort of getting things across the finish line. So I think, in a perfect world, someone like Jason and the Waterways Committee would be running this on behalf of the town with our support, and we can certainly educate them what we've learned. We have some resources, whether it be Jared Fulcher. We've also have some resources in terms of the actual Coast Guard. So, and we can bring that knowledge to bear.
Yeah, and we've got the Fishermen Alliance organization, as well as the Chamber of Commerce and the merchant. So we've got a lot of outreach to feed in, and then we are reaching out to Jared Fulcher, for example, and other former and current retired Coast Guard individuals who are actively working with other towns to have these sorts of discussions. And all of their feedback has been strongly, the best approach to work on this is to open a dialogue with the Coast Guard, meet with Captain Moon, who's in Woods Hole, and to really just let them know that the town cares a lot about this issue and wants to discuss the ways in which to resolve. So that was the feedback we were getting. So,
Stuart, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Jason, when you send your letter, which I would encourage you to do, what branch of the Coast Guard are we dealing with? Would it be sector or?
I mean,
seems to me we'd be moving up the food chain.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There's been some reception within the Coast Guard to make changes in some of these other communities. So I think that being an established thing already, you could have some effectiveness starting at a lower level. Obviously, the district level, Division of Waterways would probably be, that's kind of the body that implements these types of activities. So it could kind of go both ways. I mean, I don't know if there's harm in starting local and giving that a chance before moving upward, or we could copy the district and send it to the sector. I really haven't thought about exactly who it would go to yet. Just kind of waiting to see a little bit how this would go tonight and kind of gauge the tenor a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, my thinking is that we don't do what we did with the surf boat issue, because that didn't work. We don't need to relive that, but it didn't work. And I would prefer to take a slightly different track and ask you folks and the Harbor Master and the Waterways Committee to spearhead this issue. It's squarely in your wheelhouse. And the Select Board can send a letter to the political representatives. We can send it to the Coast Guard, but I think that would be better coming from you folks personally, and that our letter would go to our legislative people who may want to be helpful this time. They weren't helpful at all during the surf boat issue. So it's an election year. People get a little bit more antsy. Maybe they're going to be more interested. But that would be my approach. And then lastly, I think it's really important that we pursue the 106 process. And I think that made a huge difference for the drawbridge. We're not recommending having a wooden lighthouse, but nonetheless, it was a successful process. So, and I think we could ask Mr. Messina and the Historical Commission to spearhead that. That'd be my thought.
Well, any other thoughts from the Select Board? I mean,
I will say, I was coming back from Nantucket the other night. I wish I had the whole lighthouse, even with GPS.
So I think, I mean, Select Board Member Nicastro suggested we write a letter, and I think we should and will. However, I think the reach out, I agree with Mr. Smith that the reach out ought to be from our Harbor Master, Waterways, the folks whose lives depend and safety depends on the lighthouse, that we've got real concerns, and the town of Chatham has real concerns as well. But I think coming from you guys is good. I think having us sit down with them is good, and we've got local citizens that are really energized and engaged, and I think that's powerful. And we've got the hook fishermen as well. I think I see John Papalato out there. I think they're fully engaged as well. So I think that's a good envoy, if you will, to bring the issue to the forefront. And then I think if we need firepower, we'll get firepower as much as we can. We were somewhat successful dealing with Fish and Wildlife years and years ago with Monomoy issues, so this is Coast Guard, I get it. But maybe we can get some influence elsewhere as well via the political process. So those are my thoughts. Jason, you got to send your letter. I think you got to send his letter.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we should pen a letter as well in support of the Harbor Master's effort to, secure a different solution for the Chatham Lighthouse, blah, blah, blah.
Right to the legislature.
Yeah, we can do that. I think raise it up now, raise it up the flagpole now. But now, so what's your timing on meeting with the Coast Guard?
We'll open those.
Formally.
We'll open those discussions up.
Okay.
I mean, it's, at this point, there's a number of community members that are involved. There is precedent for them listening and making some changes, and this group's done a really good job of providing certain options that could be palatable to them. So, this week I can reach out and try to see if we can establish a meeting with the affected users and see if we can get an initial reading of how this may go. And then I can certainly follow up with you on how that goes and whether I think that that's going to be something that's going to be useful, or whether it's something that's going to be somewhat of an uphill battle.
Yeah, honestly, Jason, that input, that feedback to us is important as we craft a letter, so the sooner the better, and then we've got good direction on the letter as well. I'm comfortable with these guys designing the next light. It's unreal.
I will say that John has spoken to manufacturers and lighthouse managers in Korea, in New Zealand. He has gone deep on the technology.
I know, I get it. I got it. It's good. All right, is that enough direction? You guys, are you comfortable?
Yeah, is it my understanding that we would defer our letter until
Yes.
Jason makes those
Until we get
initial
some kind of
contacts and
feedback, some
helps
kind of
us?
read.
Is that,
I thought of it simultaneously. It doesn't matter. We can wait if that.
I just want to get a little, I totally agree with sending a letter, absolutely, but its content could be one way or the other, depending on what kind of the read we get from the Coast Guard. It could be shrill, or, as long as you guys are going to kind of get together with them, in a week or two.
I think we should consider taking advantage of the election.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, sometimes these correspondence take time, and for Jason to send a letter out and the response, maybe some back and forth, why don't we start early?
That's fine.
I'm kind of with Stuart. I think maybe we'll draft it in an appropriate manner, but let's get the ball rolling.
I'll ask for a meeting and hand deliver the letter.
Yeah.
I said I'll ask for a meeting with them and hand deliver the letter.
Okay. And the timing on that is,
As soon as they can
okay.
make the appointment.
Okay, just let us know. Thanks, Jason. Okay, we good with that?
Yes.
Good with that? A letter sooner rather than later from us. Let us know what's going on. Okay, fully supportive. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, who's going to draft, is Stuart going to draft? You offered to draft it.
No, I mean,
Whatever.
any one of us could write it. No.
Present it to us.
Whatever you
Okay.
like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need a motion?
Yeah, we can have a motion,
I mean,
please. Yep.
Suggested motion?
Yep.
I move that the Select Board authorize the drafting of a letter to the U.S. Coast Guard substantially consistent with this agenda report, requesting confirmation of Chatham Light's approved and installed specifications, a collaborative operational review of offshore and nearshore visibility, evaluation of corrective options if warranted, and preservation of the removed DCB 224 Aero beacon pending completion of that review.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll call the roll.
Just question, to the Coast Guard or CC, our legislative body, or clarification who we sent?
To the Coast Guard.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do we want to expand that?
Well,
Coast Guard copy.
yeah, I think we would copy the Coast Guard and send it to the legislative.
That's what
folks.
I'm looking for clarification.
And, yeah.
Feds.
So to the Coast Guard and the appropriate legislative bodies?
I think what Stuart's saying, address them to the state and feds, our reps, if you will, and then copy the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I think that
So moved.
from us would be good. From them, they're going to
Them,
take a
Coast
different tact.
So moved.
Okay.
Second, yep.
All right, call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Castro? Aye. Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Thank you very much. Thanks, Seth. Yep. Good night. Okay, the next item on our agenda is consideration of a recommended prohibition of large parties on large events, I should say, and parties on North Beach and North Beach Island. Mr. Greg Berman, who's our party police. Mr. Berman,
Yep, and
Director of Natural Resources.
thank you. I think we're trying to avoid party police.
Yes.
But not to get too detailed, back in May, we did bring this idea forward to the Select Board. There was a particular event, a wedding at the time, and we realized that we did not have specific regulations or guidance for large events on North Beach. We did have our park and rec regulations relating to North Beach Island that directed large parties to contact the chief of police for that person's de facto sole authorization of those events, of which the former chief did not approve any I'm aware of, and was not really in support of that. North Beach Island and North Beach really just aren't suited, at least the Chatham portion of North Beach, for these large events. The memo gets kind of into the details. There's public safety concerns, there's environmental concerns, there's, use of public property and the assumption of private use only of certain areas that is very difficult to police out there and to respond to these events. We did have our public safety folks take a look. This was really a collaborative look at large events with PD, Community Services, several divisions within Natural Resources alone. And, you know, the short story is we kind of explored situations where these events would come to us and to try to figure out when we would be comfortable from predominantly a public safety, but from the other points of view too, you know, authorizing them, coming up with a permitting process, and there really just wasn't one for this situation. The time involved to reach North Beach and North Beach Island were just too onerous. So it's our staff recommendation, joint recommendation, that we just prohibit these large planned events. This would not stop, you know, a family from getting together. It wouldn't stop, you know, 10 people and 10 people from walking next to each other and separating again. It's not draconian like that. And this was brought forward to the Park and Rec Committee, not for a vote, but just for a kind of flavor and consensus. And they did seem to agree that these areas are not appropriate for large events. We didn't want them to, you know, get into a vote before bringing it to the select board to get this overall discussion started. If the select board is in support of a prohibition, at that point I would bring it back to Park and Rec, because they are, their regulations speak to North Beach Island, but not North Beach. But at this point, I think we can really consider both of those areas in the same wheelhouse, the same degree of separation from so many other parts of Chatham.
Okay, Greg. Couple comments. I was privileged to see a photograph of the beach the day that they left all the garbage and detritus out there. It was a distant photo, but then I was also privileged to catch a video from, must have been a drone, going over the event that was held over the 4th. And it was, you would, you know, prohibiting 20 people, it would be, you know, 200 people. It was gigantic. So clearly, and they weren't, it wasn't a responsible gigantic. We could almost, you know, stomach a gigantic if they cleaned up. But this was out of control, messy, bad. Really, really left the beach in a mess, and that is not what we want in Chatham. Now, that being said, what's the enforcement of, okay, we're going to permit 20, but what about 30 or 40? Who's going to enforce, you know, the prohibition? How are we going to even go about it? So we're going to say, Park and Rec, you figure it out? Is that what you're suggesting?
Not necessarily just
Okay.
Park and Rec. I mean, Park and Rec doesn't have authority on North Beach, and really these would be, the land base would probably be more enforcement with PD, although the notifications would probably come in via Harbor Master. So, you know, right now, the idea of these planned events is for the more formal, the weddings, the parties, the get-togethers. It's the groups of 20 that are just on a beach all together, that whether they plan to come together or not are very difficult to deal with. You know, we have worked with some of the, you know, water shuttles going over to North Beach Island to try to put our regulations a little bit more in their face. There's QR codes, there's distribution. I believe the harbor master has put out trash containers for these large weekend events, at least for when they're coming back, so they know they're available. Whether they take advantage of that is questionable. As far as enforcement, it's very difficult over 4th of July, as I think we all know. You know, any effort out on the island takes away from effort back on the mainland. And I believe Chief Anderson spoke to that previously. I believe Chief Malzone is present, if you'd like him to speak to it now. But right now on North Beach Island, there shouldn't be events over 20 people, even with the current regulations. The penalty is what I would consider relatively small, but enforcement is a problem. That's true.
Mr. Smith, yes.
So, having somewhat lived this, you know, First of all, I want to kind of back up on the Parks and Rec Commission. So why doesn't the Parks and Rec Commission have regulatory responsibility for North Beach?
I don't have the full history, but North Beach Island is considered a beach under the Park and Rec, whereas North Beach is not considered a beach. It's
Okay,
listed
well,
specifically in their regulation
Yeah.
that beaches.
So we need to address that because it seems rather silly to me that the Parks and Rec Commission somehow doesn't have jurisdiction over probably one of the largest beaches we have in Chatham. I think from a process standpoint, that's important, and my understanding is that they do. But nonetheless, that should be examined. The party on, and I agree, I saw some of the, it's kind of crazy. I mean, they do happen, but that party, we take as an example, was required to get a permit. Am I not? No?
I'm
Nope.
sorry, there were no permits.
No, I know that.
Since I've been here or it would have been required if there was more than 20 people for a planned event.
Right.
This is on North Beach Island, not North Beach. North Beach, we have rules. North Beach Island, I understand we don't have rules.
Oh, no, we do have rules.
I'm sorry, it's vice versa. North Beach does not have the rules.
We have with Orleans.
North Beach Island has the rules. We do have Orleans's rules on North Beach.
Thank you.
But they kind of stop at the town line.
But, okay.
You see where I'm headed? Because this was an issue years ago, and it needs to get resolved. And this is simple in my mind, and that is just ask the parks, do whatever formality process we need to do to enable the Parks and Rec Commission to give recommendations or adopt their own regulations in conjunction with the board. It's not a minor point because it's been out there for so long. But my point is, the party on North Beach Island, right? This 4th of July kind of got out of control. That's required to have a permit. Didn't have a permit. So I'm not sure how, if we're not enforcing.
How do you get
That's where I'm headed. How do you enforce no parties if we're not enforcing, oh, you have to have a party, you have to have a permit for over 20 people? I mean, it gets to be, not to mention the logistical problem with this, which is huge.
I mean, part of the difficulty / justification is it does say planned event. A planned event should have an organizer, so you can kind of go after that organizer or group.
Well, I understand the logic behind it, but it didn't happen. And so you go out there, okay, we go out there, who's in charge of this event? I'm painting the picture. You know how confusing this is going to be. And, I'm coming up with some, at least beginning of how to address this issue. And one way is we got to get the regulatory issue resolved and solidified. The second thing I'll say is, for North Beach, I've been saying this for quite some time, for North Beach proper, mainland side, how much beach do we have there? A mile? About a mile. Do you have any idea the resources we spent on that mile? Why are we not contracted with Orleans that they deal with that? This is just silly. I think we need to have a discussion, my opinion, with Orleans as to how, we need you to do this. We're going to share with you the fees or whatever, but it's a mile of beach, and we're leaving here with our equipment and personnel, driving all the way to Orleans. Oh, and then, by the way, driving all the way south to the tip by the North Beach, the North Inlet. It's very much a very silly process, and we could take those resources and effort and then deal with North Beach Island, which is they can't deal with, and we should. So that would be.
Mr. Smith, I hear a future agenda item.
And just for a future agenda item, depending on the timing, staff do bring the intermunicipal agreement on an annual basis, usually in October, to this group. That might be an appropriate time to bring that up?
Yeah, I think it would be. And it's not as though we don't need those resources that are dealing with a mile of beach on the Orleans side. We need them at North Beach Island. And that way we don't incur any further resource expense, or hopefully not. So, anyway.
So what do you want to do with this item tonight? They're asking for a recommendation on a prohibition. I'm not sure I'm ready.
I don't know. I don't know what we're going to be accomplishing here. I mean, I get the intent. I don't like the big parties, but holy smokes, I mean, I don't even need to ask Jason and the chief to come up and explain to the board, okay, there's a party with 200 people out there. What are we going to do? Yeah, on the 4th of July weekend.
4th of July.
Like nobody else is, we're not busy? What I would suggest is that the Waterways Committee and the harbor master and whoever else come back with some thoughts and recommendations on whether we can reduce what we're contributing to these parties. And what we're contributing is access. So the beach shuttle, North Beach, 4th of July, you can't go. We're not going to permit you to go. Harbor master can add conditions and restrictions to the permit that he issues if he chooses, but it is a way to reduce at least the population that's going out there. They may find another area, but I think we can control Riders Cove, we can control the public landings, and we certainly can control the fish pier.
Just to that, the footage I saw, there were many private boats as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not the shuttles, but if the shuttles do continue and they bring a whole party over there, then when that party comes back, they better bring all their junk with them.
Well, they bring their junk with them, but
they better bring their junk back with them.
my thinking was, you can't, if you're going to get out there, Mr. Shuttle, this is just for the 4th of July, find another location. We're incurring too much liability and responsibility for trying to police the place. We need to reduce the clientele as opposed to try to eliminate it, because we're not going to, I just don't think we're going to eliminate, as you correctly point out, because of the private boat.
Mr. Metters.
Well, I was going to say, the key word is planned event. So like, if there's a wedding event, prohibition, they can't have it. Because, like you say, we don't have the resource. We don't have the bathroom facilities out there. We're not going to have all the trash facilities out there. Someone has a medical event. We're not going to necessarily be out there.
We're not permitting that, nor are we enforcing it. But
if we start with this, we prohibited these planned events, it's a start. So I would.
I don't care. It's going to be completely ineffectual. It will feel good that we think we did something.
It's a
but
start.
The start is to try to reduce the amount of people that are going out there, because we're not going to eliminate it. And we have justification and the legal means to do that.
Mr. Berman has his hand up.
So we are getting requests for planned events. That was kind of the thrust of that initial conversation back in May.
Which you can say no to.
If the board, that's the consensus or the vote, that's pretty much what we're asking right now, is a prohibition on planned large events.
Well, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying was, you are in control of that now. You issue, the Department of Natural Resources, through whatever method, you issue the permits, or you don't, for this.
So for North Beach Island, it is only the chief of police who reviews and issues those permits. For North Beach, there is no process in place for a permit for a large event. So that's kind of what we're bringing forward, is trying to put a prohibition on those large planned events.
There is a permit in Orleans for a planned event. And did we not adopt that same language for our mile of beach?
Not yet. That was one of the requests that the select board had, was for me to come back with recommendations. Okay. As we were exploring adopting the Orleans, and we have not had another request since then. Okay. But as we were exploring that with the other public safety groups in town, a overall prohibition versus adopting the Orleans permitting process was the recommendation.
Okay, Greg, I would like to call on the Chief Malzone, and have you weigh in, please, Chief.
And there was a planned event on North Beach, was it a year or two ago? And that person was actually fined because there was an organizer involved.
Because why?
There was an organizer involved.
Okay.
And they were identified and fined because of that.
How much?
I think the maximum possible, but do you recall?
I don't remember the fine amount, but that person was identified and came forward, and that was how that could be enforced. When this first came up, I think the department was trying to relinquish that responsibility of signing any permit for North Beach Island, because it would be irresponsible for the department to sign that permit, knowing the challenges and lack of resources.
This is the police department.
The police department, to get there. So the suggestion was, when this first came up, well, the police department can weigh in on, similar to the film permit. You reach out to all the departments that are involved, and they can comment. And I think the idea of that was that because the police department's always going to say no, that if the other department said yes, maybe the police department wasn't always the fun police, right? But it's the police department is, the way it sits now, will not sign any permits for large organized events on North Beach Island.
Okay.
Mr. Smith.
Never mind, I'll wait.
Okay.
And it does kind of seem like we're on the same page, a prohibition on permitted large planned events at these locations. I mean, dealing with the unplanned events and mass groups of people is kind of a separate item. We're not permitting those, but we have to deal with them. But for people who ask us, we just want a consensus or vote that says, no, the town doesn't want those.
Okay, well, it sounds like that's already being done by the police department. They're saying no.
They're not going to give a permit. They just said that.
Right.
But not for North Beach.
Not for.
So just
mainland.
North Beach Island.
Yeah, okay.
not North
good.
Beach.
That's fine.
Are we okay with large planned events on North Beach? And I'll come up with a permitting process for that? I mean, we were leaning towards having both of them together with a prohibition.
I mean, I'm in favor of you entering into a dialogue with Orleans for them to do this.
Right, and that's, I think, the understanding now, right, is that I agree that if we have some kind of agreement with Orleans to rely on them, but now it's kind of an assumption that if there's a large event on North Beach, they would handle it. And that's a big assumption on our part. So I think some dialogue and conversation with them as to how we form this agreement with them is the correct route.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Chair. And I only stand here and say that we will deny all these permits because we don't have something better in place right now for enforcement action. Obviously, we will get there if we have to get there. But to put the town or the department's name on something, knowing that the timely manner that we're going to get there, or the safety of those groups that we're endorsing or supporting to be there, would be irresponsible at this point.
Absolutely agree. Okay, Mr. Nacastro.
I think we should make things easy and just vote the prohibition for both properties tonight. We can do the things that Stuart was recommending earlier in terms of whether we might have some way of either getting Orleans to agree to take over larger events on our proportion of the property. They're going to want a pretty penny for that, but, maybe we can do it. Or to, reduce the access. I think those are good suggestions, but maybe in the meantime, we just have a ban. That makes your life easier because people come to you, Greg, and you can say, I'm sorry, the select board said no parties here. And it makes the police, it backs up what the police are doing anyway.
No planned parties.
So, no planned parties.
No planned parties.
No planned party. I mean, I think if you do have I know Stuart is concerned about the potential effectiveness of a ban, but if you have a ban and the first group that goes out there, you make an effort to enforce it, then the word gets out, hey, the town of Chatham is not allowing stuff on there, so we're not, we're going to take a risk if we go out on those areas and do something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind voting for a ban. I just don't want to kid ourselves. It's going to be ineffectual. That's not, the way to address this issue is to not have to address it on North Beach Island. It's too difficult to get to. The weather conditions, the tidal conditions, it's too much of a resource on the, stress on the resources. I don't know how many police officers are on the 4th of July, but you're going to take 3 of them and send them over to the North Beach? I don't think that's going to happen. Then you're going to tie up boats of the harbor masters. So I think we control the access. I think that is something to be, you should try to explore.
Anybody have I have Kim Burson's hand is up. Kim, recognize you?
Thank you. As you're well aware, this conversation has gone a lot of different directions.
Yep.
But I'm going to start back where Mr. Berman agreed that in May, we first talked about this because of a wedding, and that was North Beach. But I was the one who sent photos to Chair Dykens following July 4th, because I was there with my family. And what you touched on 20 minutes ago, these were kids. This was 250 to 300 kids who all arrived on that island not on private boats. They were transferred from the fish pier or wherever there are transfers on to North Beach Island. And it fed because of social media. This is not a planned event, it's kids.
Right.
Underage drinkers. And it's a easy way for them to escape out onto the island. They can't be found. In addition to my photos that I submitted to you, the harbor master tried to drive by, try to take photos, but, you know, this is a very busy weekend and a very active time on that island. So I don't even know where to finish this, but North Beach is very different than North Beach Island. These kids are not getting out to North Beach. Those are people coming on their own vehicles. North Beach Island is getting access because of services that are provided privately. These are not coming on private boats. I hope that Chair Dykens shared my photos. I don't know the answer. I just was there, and it was not a good scene. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I was blown away by the photos, and your photo was a distant one, and it's still a very large gathering. And then again, I saw a drone, must have been a drone or a plane, or it had to be a drone, of the gathering. Then it was unbelievable. But that's an unplanned event, and you know it should be prohibited. You know, it should be prohibited. But I don't know how we're going to enforce it. Be honest with you. But anyway, Dean has suggested, and I think there was a motion forthcoming. I'm not sure that we approve the prohibition of planned events. This is planned events on North Beach Island, is what I heard you say.
Well, I'll move the recommendation that was suggested in the memo. We can modify it if you'd like. It doesn't have the word planned. I move that the Select Board endorse a policy prohibiting large private events on the Chatham portion of North Beach / North Nauset Beach and on North Beach Island.
Second.
Can I make an addition to that?
Please.
I'd like to also ask staff to look into how to restrict access, I've named a few ideas, to North Beach during those 4th of July type parties where we are allowing the transportation of people over from our property. And then we have to deal with the people. We don't want that. You know, we just can't deal with that. So I would add that to that they look into that.
I'll include that in the motion.
Second.
Okay. Any further comment? We'll run the roll here. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And Mr. Dykens says aye as well. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is consideration of a revised community survey that we discussed, I believe, about a month ago. We had some distinct suggestions on some edits to be made. And it's been returned to us in a shortened version, I think a more focused version, in my opinion, and I will turf it off to Shauna and Mr. Metters. Mr. Metters, if you'd like to.
Well, I was just going to say, I just wanted to, a big thank you to Shauna Neely and all the staff input that was put into this. Basically, you took the Provincetown larger survey, refined it down to a lower number of questions, more focused on Chatham's needs or concerns. So I thank you very much. But I think this is a good draft, and I think it's a good starting point for where I was going with this originally. So.
Sure. Shauna Neely, Communications Manager. I would say roughly the first half of the questions included in this draft very closely mirrored the intent of Provincetown survey to get a baseline sort of score for different departments. But the second half of the questions, I really looked at the board's goals and objectives and tried to hone in on, to give you, the board, some meaningful feedback on the directions that the town is taking on policies and projects.
Ms. Potas,
Yeah,
then
thank
Mr.
you.
Nacastro.
Yeah, so thank you, Corey, for bringing this up. I did a little research into how it's worked out in Provincetown, and, no, I think it's impressive, and, I'm really much looking forward to the responses, and thank you for shortening it up. I just want to point out a couple of little things. Okay, so like in number 5, it says, how satisfied are you with services you receive from the Department of Community Development? And so the fourth option is not applicable, do not access services. I would just say have not accessed, okay? For obvious reasons, because they may.
They may.
Yeah, tomorrow they could need a building permit for something. And so that same theme song would go to number 9, and let's see. Okay, which town services do you access most frequently? So it says do access, so just put do you. I'm getting like Dean a little bit here, but, anyway, let's see, number 20, have you ever participated in one or more of the following? Select all that apply. You might want to even say, which have you participated in? I'm just an idea. You don't have to, obviously it's not necessarily something you want to change. And then in number 20, the last one is none of the above. I'm not sure that's needed the way it is now, just in my view, that you might not even need that one.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay. How important is it for the town to maintain operation of the municipal airport? You might even want to ask them, do you see the airport as an asset? That seems to be a big question. A lot of people do, some don't. So that's my thought process on it. Again, I thank all of you for doing this, and I have a thick skin, and so I'm looking forward to the answers. I always want to get better.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Jeff. I think it would be helpful to add a few things to number 17. That question, I'd like to add it to 13. I think we should have a question on open space and enhancement of open space.
Okay.
On page 1, number 7, and page 3, number 15, we need to add Information Technologies Office. That doesn't seem to be mentioned here, unless I missed it.
No, I don't know that that's really a public-facing.
Oh, they do lots of public facing. They do all of our IT work that the public uses, so I disagree. And these other subdivisions within these departments are all itemized, but it's not itemized completely in finance. So that's on page 3 and on page 1. Also, on page 2, number 9, the Department of Public Works, and this is we have talked about on many agendas this past year, and that is water and sewer. I think we should add a water and sewer question in there. That doesn't seem to be covered. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Stuart. Mr. Nacastro.
Thank you. Thank you, Shauna, and whoever else worked on this, for bringing this down from 99 questions. I just had like 2 or 3. One is just an edit on page 3, question 15. It says Department of Finances, so you're going to strike the S. But on, I would add, let me see. On question 37, town's ability to respond to a natural disaster, I would add another category at the bottom, lack of heat/refrigeration, because those are what we hear.
Okay.
And then on question 41, what additional recreational facility or amenity? I would add none.
Okay.
And that's it.
Good, good.
The other suggestions are fine with me.
Yeah, me too. We good? Okay.
Happy to make a motion.
I'm just going to hear from Mr. Buckley, who has his hand up, and he mentioned that he wanted to speak to it. Oh, wait a second. Shauna first, then Stephen Buckley. Shauna.
Just was contacted by Jeff Spalter earlier today, asking if there was time for the SRAC to review and provide input as well. So if we'll make the edits and bring back to you for final review before issuing, if that's possible.
How would we address the other 30 committees?
We can certainly circulate it to everyone if you wish.
Not that I wish, I just feel if we're going to, I wouldn't, but if we're going to do it with one committee, I think we need to do it with all of them.
We can certainly do that.
I think it's pretty darn good as it stands, but anyway,
Well,
Mr. Myers.
my intention of this, and I appreciate any board committee wants to give input on it. My intention bringing this forward was a scorecard for the select board, kind of like, we have a town manager evaluation, and we have this process. We don't really have outside of an election, we don't really have a scorecard for us and how we, I'm just looking for another tool. I hate to use the tool in the toolbox too. I hate these terms, but another tool in the toolbox for us to kind of do a better job. And that's what I look at it. So it's something that we collectively can frame. You know, we've narrowed it down. We've cut it in half. I think we've added a couple of changes. I think we are I think what we're putting together is good. Let's finalize it and put it out there. If someone wants to give us input, so be it, but I don't want to send it to one committee or another myself.
I agree. Mr. Nicastro.
I agree with that. I feel compelled to make this comment. And this is a tool. It's like taking polls. The real determination of whether the people are satisfied with what we do is every May at the town election. That's I just really want, and you implied that, but I really think that's important because we don't know how many are going to even participate in this. But it'll be an interesting and a hopefully helpful piece of information. And I agree. I don't think we need to send it out to any committees. Period.
It's going to go to everybody. Okay, I'm good. Motion?
Sure. I would move that staff suggested edits to the survey and return it to the board for final review and approval, and include the edits that were outlined today.
And I'll second that. But
Okay, and
Mr.
then we'll
Buckley's-
also recognize Mr. Buckley. Mr. Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last meeting when this was brought up, I'm sorry you didn't notice that I wanted to speak on it because I am totally in favor of Corey's desire to get a better handle on what's working, on what's not working. And granted, Mr. Nicastro's comment that one way of doing that is at elections, but it could be that you're 95% in favor of everything that's going on except for that one department, and you can't express that with a yes/no vote at elections. So, but customer service, we've all been, I think for those of us of a certain age, 30 years ago, we were rarely asked what we thought about McDonald's or anything there. And now we're inundated with how are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? And so you have to be very careful because people are being asked all these questions, and it's great that they're being asked rather than not asked at all. But that's why you have to be careful with the questions. So because at a certain point, we've all done this where we've taken a survey where it's like, and next page, and you're like, wait a minute, I just spent 10 minutes, where's the end? And they just bail out. And then you get nothing. And they get frustrated because, so if you ask for too much, so that's the dilemma. What I was going to say last time this came around was, okay, it's great that Provincetown is doing something, but guess what? There's 25,000 other towns out, or cities and local governments. It would be great to be able to not invent our own survey, even though, yes, Chatham is so different, blah, blah, blah. But some of the things are like question number 4. How would you rate your overall quality of life? Now, that should be a standard question that should appear year after year or every 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But it should be the same question from time to time so you can compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges, of course, and have it be, yes, isn't there a survey that already exists that does all the things that you've been talking about, and it doesn't have to go, we can say, hey, it's the American Community Survey. Let's just use that and add a second survey if we want to talk about the harbor master or something. Fine, have that be a second. But have it be the basic one where you talk about how, what's your quality of life? Is it getting better or worse? Things, very fundamental questions. That's the whole idea about they ask the same, any kind of, Gallup questions. They ask the same question time to time. And then they compare it, 20 years ago, there you go, compared, and not just have it be a one-off pass-fail, how we doing thing.
Stephen,
so that's my concern is that.
Yeah.
I'll let you go. Anyway, what I was trying to say is that we have Civic Plus. That's our provider for our website. I betcha, they already have they've been doing this with any number of towns. What kind of surveys do they have for citizen satisfaction? I would suggest you put it off, have Shauna check into that, and find out what everybody else in the world is doing before we invent our own flavor of survey. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we had P-Towns as a template, if you will, and I think we're all fairly comfortable with it. Do we had a motion in a second?
Yes.
We did. Okay, and I'll call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is staff is asking about the process for our annual community review that we do annually, fairly religiously, and whether we want to do as a matter of course in our standing agendas, or whether we want to incorporate it in when we look at the committee handbook, or whether we want a separate review session, or we can dispense with it this evening. The process around our annual review. Many of the regulatory committees and commissions, I think, were fairly comfortable with their charge and their existence. The only one I ticked off was the local building codes. That hasn't been in existence ever. So I think we could nuke that one by consensus, or maybe we need a vote. But
excuse me, Mr. Chairman. So recent
Yes,
changes to 40A.
Correct.
Perhaps we may end up, I'm sorry, even with the economic development bill, we may end up needing the local
Okay, good,
building
excellent
code
point.
appeals board. We've
Yep.
been made aware recently, so I just want to look at that before we nix it.
40A is the change in the state.
40A is the zoning act changes, and then there are other changes coming potentially with the economic development bill that I was told by staff might require us to get the local building code appeals board up and running.
Okay, well,
Okay.
we'll call out when we need to. Mr. Nacastro, thank you, Katie.
I've never been a fan of the, 2 hours on Saturday morning to deal with this stuff. We've done it a couple of times. We did it once in the evening. It was somewhat contentious. I would suggest that, and staff is looking for direction on how to process this. I would suggest it be a regular agenda item, that an ample enough time would be allowed for it, and I would suggest that in advance of that, that members of the board who have particular committees or issues that they want to discuss, now this is independent of the committee handbook.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that, I think, separately. Provide that to Kathy, and then that can be included in a staff memo at the meeting. for that meeting, and we can take them up. I myself, at the moment, don't have any particulars. I mean, I think there was various issues over time. We've said, we'll take this up, and maybe I said, voiced a few myself. I'd have to go back and look at that.
To that point, and when we got the committee handbook in the draft form, there were a couple of suggestions in the margins about combining committees. I think that's what prompted the look, and I'm comfortable with either. I'm comfortable, I don't know your sentiments, but I'm not planning to do a deep dive on many of these, or any of them, but anyway. So I think we can deal with it as a standing agenda item and do it fairly quickly if we highlight those commissions and/or committees we want to talk about. Otherwise, you flip the page and go on, and we approve them. We approve their charge and their, other thoughts. I mean, I don't mind doing that. I mean, we can put an agenda item.
A regular agenda item is perfectly fine with me.
Okay?
Yeah, regular agenda. I had a couple of questions that maybe could be answered, not tonight. We've chatted about this before, but I'm still not clear. On page 1, 2, regulatory charge.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, but it hasn't been resolved.
Dean didn't clear that up for you.
Well, sort of. Non-regulatory charge by statute. I'd like a definition for both of those. I'm almost less interested what it says, other than there just be a definition for both of them. Dean could even write them if he wants.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, and we can even ask town council if they're interested in getting his opinion on it, his or her opinion. To me, a regulatory committee is a body that can exercise some control over your person or your property in your private life. So the zoning board of appeals or the planning board can decide whether you can, enlarge your living room or whatever, or build closer to the property line. Those 5 or 6 committees there are all committees that are mandated by state law. There are other committees or commissions, and you've got the list there, the non-regulatory, like the Airport Commission, the Board of Assessors. They clearly have some, to varying degrees, control over town-owned activities on town-owned property, like the Airport Commission. But I think they're in a different category. I mean, I wouldn't live, I don't live or die on this.
I don't even mind that category that you're just saying, because I wasn't clear on that before.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't have a problem with that being the definition, as long as there is one.
Yeah.
Because the term non-regulatory, charged by statute,
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, because I'm telling you, the Airport Commission, the Parks and Rec, these people have regulatory responsibility.
They can make regulations. You
Yeah.
pointed that out.
So maybe it's just the title that's
Maybe we
not
just
good.
call them statutory committees. I don't know. Maybe there's a better term.
But
We can think about
I
it
think
before.
I think
before we meet.
clarity there would be helpful
We
to
can think
me.
about it before we meet.
Yeah.
Come up with some suggestions.
Sure.
Okay. Excellent, thank you very much. Very good. So we're going to have an agenda item looking at our review. And get specific issues to Kathy for highlight. I just had, I don't have many, I have one. Okay. Last item on our agenda is our town manager's report. We have our assistant town manager, Katie Donovan, here to present this. Katie?
Thank you,
take it away.
Mr. Chairman. I will be brief, but just a couple of items to note in addition to, as always, a lot of good information in the report. Just some items of note. The Monomoy Regional School District's Working Group held their first meeting on Thursday, August 20th. The next meeting of that group is tentatively scheduled for the 3rd week of September, and that would be in Harwich.
17th, I think it's been scheduled.
Okay, so September 17th.
Is that going to be viewable on Chatham TV?
That I'm not sure of,
YouTube
but
channel?
we can ask
We could
for
get that
clarification on that.
I believe it is going to be, Dean, but we should nail that down. They have,
Unless there's a link to
they have
Harwich.
YouTube coverage of the.
There's
of
going to
their
be
select board
coverage,
meeting.
I think they were talking about the public dialogue and how to, public input during the meeting at the Harwich location was the different setup that we have here versus there. I think that was the difference, but
There must be a link to Harwich that we could.
There is.
There is.
If we wanted to watch a Harwich Select Board meeting. Okay.
I can ask the town manager for clarification on that, and then to maybe let folks know how that can be watched or participated in.
Is that going to be at Harwich Town Hall?
Yes.
Maybe they could you could send us all the links, you know, like you do with an invite.
It should be posted on the main sheet, too,
Yes.
for the public.
Okay, great. To make sure that happens. Also, so in-person early voting began on August 22nd. In-person early voting for the state primary election is being held at the town clerk's office located at town offices, 549 Main Street. In-person early voting began on Saturday, August 22nd, and continues through Friday, August 28th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just also, in addition to some grants, the grants that were noted earlier in the meeting, the Department of Public Works has recently been awarded a grant in the amount of $230,000 from the Mass Department of Energy Resources Green Communities Division for upgrades to improve energy efficiency, including $192,080 for installation of a hybrid rooftop unit heat pump at the Department of Public Works facility. So I just wanted to note that in addition to those that the Director of Natural Resources had highlighted earlier. And then just looking at some employees' years of service, our assessing director, 20 years, although I think she's coming upon maybe not quite a year as the assessing director. Our town manager, Jill Goldsmith, 15 years. Looking at, let's see, some firefighters, we've got William Field and William McGrath at 14 and 10 years. And looking all the way down to Catherine Ricks, our coastal resource director, our coastal resilience director, that was a title changed, for 2 years. Bradford Bauer, our assistant conservation agent, 1 year, and Mark Welch, our heavy equipment operator, for 1 year. And then the report is now noting the employee years of service for September as well, just to kind of give a look forward as opposed to a look back. So our Police Chief Lou Malzone at 20 years. Our Animal Control Officer Diane Byers for 11 years. Anna Milan, our COA Program and Communications Coordinator, 3 years. And I'm just taking these randomly. I'm not, looking for any. All the way down to our Health Inspector, Andy Grover, who's been here for a year. I think we had noted a number of times the retirement of Kenny Friend, the heavy equipment operator, and then looking at the available positions currently in town. We have the health agent, a heavy equipment operator, a mechanic, just a heavy equipment operator, an adult day program assistant, and an intermittent recording secretary. So those were just some of the highlights I thought I would note for the board.
Just a comment, you guys, when you add up all the grants, $4,639,713. That's considerable. That's pretty good.
That's not bad. It's always interesting to know, which I think will come up during the budget, because I'm going to bring it up.
Yep.
The responsibilities that the town inherits with those grants. It's something we want to be alert of.
Mr. Nicastro, yes.
Can I just ask, this isn't in the report, but it's information going forward. Have we, Kathy, I guess addressed to you, have we scheduled the law firms that are coming in? We had.
It's the first thing on my list
Okay.
for tomorrow morning to
Okay.
send out those invites.
Is it 3, or has anyone requested a 4th firm?
No, 3.
I don't know if any, I went through them, I'm okay with the original 3, but maybe others.
And Stuart, wait, and we're going to do those 3.
Just for transparency, I did say 4.
Oh,
And the only reason to be.
There's always a spoiler.
I know. No. If someone's going to go through the trouble of applying for this position, we give them the courtesy of, giving the interview. You guys are a little more background, especially the two of you, with some of the, you know these companies a little bit more in depth than I do. So I'm not pressing for it, but I was not opposed to a 4th interview.
If I were you, I'd say the same thing.
Okay. Final motion. Oh,
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
final comment. I've been asking for the better part of 7 months on the people who have left the employ of the town of Chatham. I'm happy to report, I actually got a call yesterday. So maybe we'll see some movement on that soon. If you look at page, because I think this is notable, especially to what Jeff was saying earlier about the crowds, page 50 of the report, and that photo, kind of indicative of what's going on North Beach, and that's kind of even passive. The other thing that I think is important, because it's an ongoing problem, and it was a huge problem in another community on the Cape this past winter, and that is on page 51. I think it's important for the Select Board to take a look at that paragraph and read the last sentence about communication issues with the Coast Guard during these maritime responses. It's an ongoing problem. I'm not suggesting we make it an agenda request, but we might have to. This just doesn't seem to go away. And somebody paid the price, and we don't want it to happen here. Thanks.
Okay, Stuart, thank you. Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, folks, motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And Mr. Dyken says aye as well. Aye as well. Aye and aye. Good night, Chatham. Thank you. Good night.